minutes left. So, all right, I'm live. I will send it to you right now. All right, thank you. Copy. Go like this. Mute. There we go. Unmuted. Unmuted. I think I'm there. I'm trying my iPad. I'm sorry, guys. My computer crashed. I don't hear anything, unfortunately. Richard's going to join. Busy Brains is inviting him again. We'll try to talk about MMTLP quickly. I left the other computer over there smoking. I don't see my. Why doesn't the camera work here? Camera. Oh, there. Is that it? Camera. No. Settings. Camera. Front wide camera. Okay. Front wide camera. Okay. That's fine. I can't see myself. I don't. All right. You can see me? All right. I can't see me, which is probably, I just see a blank screen. So, all right, that's fine. I don't need to see me. And I guess when Richard comes in, here's Busy. We add him. Can I hear you, Busy, when you talk?
Probably. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hey, good. Good.
Where is El Richo?
I don't know where he is. Hey, lucky boy. It's weird that I don't see myself, and I see you though. Your logo.
And for tonight, I'm not Busy Brands. I'm Ham's stepchild, by the way.
You're Ham's stepchild. Maybe you have some. Oh, lucky boy. Maybe you have some questions I didn't think of. I got to get a better computer. What a disaster. What a disaster.
I've been telling you that, William. I've been telling you, but I did send Richard the new link. Just give him a second.
He said he only had 20 minutes. He might have changed his mind. I told him I just wanted to go over MMTLP a little bit, and we can always do it again. I just wonder why there's no picture of me. That's all right. I don't need to see me. What if you found out that are you there? Oh no, I blocked your microphone.
No, you're good. I can hear you.
All right. Donna's saying, "What's going on with Finger?" This is actually not a bad way of doing this. Maybe I'll do this out on the deck tomorrow instead of using, and maybe I can use my other camera too, instead of using that hot thing. Because I can read your comments here. I was always afraid I couldn't read your comments. Maybe this is good. Who knows? Oh, I know the difference. I'm not using Chrome. I'm just using Safari. I should have used Chrome. That might be the difference here. Maybe that's why I can't see myself. Control Alt Delete. What does that do, Roger? Does it give me my
Don't do that.
picture of myself?
Well, Control Delete actually takes you to your task manager, and then you could just shut down processes. Some of the processes that are actually ground that are overwhelming your computer, you can actually shut them down.
This Antonio's saying you crashed the live.
No. It was Richard's jokes. That's what crashed the live.
It could have been you, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was. Well, this might be, he might not come back on. So
I just sent them the link via email. I'll give them a text. Just give me a second.
I can't see myself, but I can see Nappy Noel. I can see Stony Bones. I can see Donna. East Coast Watchers Club and Adventures. Saw something about Kramer. Yeah, the whole talk was about Kramer. Looking good. I'm looking at the securities purchase agreement that GTII did with the Kramers. And this clause amazes me. I can't tell if you can see this, but this clause amazes me. I'll read it to you. It says, the buyer is not a dealer. In other words, the Kramers are not a dealer. The buyer, the Kramers, Geneva Roth, and the company hereby acknowledge and agree that the buyer has not, one, acted as an underwriter, two, acted as a market maker or specialist, three, acted as a de facto market maker, or four, conducted any other professional market activities such as providing investment advice, extending credit, and lending securities in connection, and thus the buyer is not a quote unquote dealer, such as the term is defined in the 1934 Act. And I did videos on this before with the buyer is a criminal. I did videos on this before. This is signed by, I think, electronically, and I might not have put the signature page here. Oh, here it is. Here's the signature page. It's Reichman and Kurt Kramer. How the hell is Reichman qualified to determine under the Securities Act whether or not Kramer is violating the rules? All right, add to stage. Did I do it properly? Removed from stage. No, I don't know. Can you guys see not legal advice? Can you guys see not legal advice? Are you there?
I can see him.
All right, I can't see him, but as long as you can see him, I can't see. For some reason, I can't see myself or Richard. But
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. I was just pointing out, Richard. This is the document, and I can't tell if you can see it, that Reichman signed with Geneva Roth. But I did a video on this. That's why it's highlighted. There's a clause in there. The buyer, that's Kramer is the buyer of the note when he lends money. The buyer is not a dealer. The buyer and the company hereby acknowledge and agree that the buyer has not, 1, acted as an underwriter, 2, acted as a market maker or specialist, 3, acted as a de facto market maker, or 4, conducted any other professional or market making activities such as providing investment advice, extending credit, and lending securities in connection, and thus they agree the buyer is not a dealer as defined in the 1934 Act. How the hell can David Reichman sign that? He's not qualified to agree to that.
He's qualified to do a lot of things. I don't think he's as qualified as Busy Brands. But is Busy Brands alive over there? Is he there?
I am about your joke crashed the live, so stop with the jokes.
All right, okay. I like your haircut, honestly. I know Bill can't see you, but I can. So I really think that's a good cut.
Arca's here. Hi, Arca.
Arca's there too.
Arca,
Nice.
we need Arca's advice on stock trading, but
I just like the name Arca. I think that's great. My favorite. Remember
it's a whale. It's a whale
Orca.
of a name, or is that Orca?
Yeah, that was Orca. There was. Busy Brands, have you ever appeared in a visual?
He appeared in Ham's Dreams the other night.
All right.
Yes, I've gone live with some of the community members on Telegram or on Zoom. Yes, some Zoom.
Yeah. Thanks for ignoring me, Busy Brands.
Oh,
Do you have an opinion about MMTLP?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
in regards of,
I'll let you take it wherever you want.
Okay, where do you want to go?
Where do you think it stands today? What are you interested in? How do you think the congressional efforts are moving on? What do you think about NextBridge suing TradeStation? Is that enough?
Well, Richard, you're an attorney, as you know, that if we do have an open hearing, I don't think they want that dirty laundry out there in the open, and you know that well that they're going to try to make a deal in the hallway, just like they do in litigation. That's my opinion in regards of an open hearing. But again, you have people out there in DC. What other ticker has that able to be in DC for the last 3, 4, 5 months over and over again? There's no other ticker doing that. So in the very beginning, you saw the other side, like we like to call it, sending expert witnesses like Professor James Angel after some of these community members had attended some congressional meetings. Now, after their second visit, you've seen what was happening again. They were sending FINRA representatives calling these office, asking if they could answer any questions that they may have. So obviously, it's taking effect. A lot of the community members visiting DC and educating the congressional members, it is taking effect because they're getting nervous. Now you have us trying to go for an open hearing, and I believe if that's successful and we do have an open hearing, just MMTLP, I think that they're going to try to settle this matter. Now, you also have DJT out there that is in the wings, and I know that you've been trying to contact or you had conversations with Devin Nunez's team. I'm doing the same with a contact that I have, and whoever comes, first, we could actually try to get Devin Nunez either on Charles Payne, and he did respond back saying that he's going to get him on there. But why do we want that? We don't want DJT diluting our message or drowning us out, but we actually, somebody like Devin Nunez, when he goes on TV, he brings up the naked shorting aspect, right? That word naked shorting or counterfeit sharing. Some of these people that are investing their 401ks, they never heard of this word before. They don't understand what's happening in the market. So me personally, I like when Devin Nunez goes up there and starts talking about this because it gets everybody going, educating everybody. What is naked shorting? What's happening on the markets that people don't know? In regards to TradeStation, I'm glad that actually NextBridge is taking steps to, it wasn't a lawsuit, right? It was a
petition.
It was a petition.
Yeah.
So it's forward movement, and the people from the MMTLP community should be happy that NextBridge is stepping up because there was a lot of community members that took the time. We put Iron 8, you had Junk Savvy, you had Jana, you had Russ, you had Gandalf, They spent a lot of time gathering that information, and kudos to the MMT community, whoever submitted their share count. Because
Did you mention Matt too?
Say what?
Did you mention Matt?
Matt?
Yeah.
I don't know if he was involved in the share count, but regardless, whoever was involved,
You just did, by the way.
Well, sorry, I meant to say Junk Savvy, Iron 8, Russ, and Gandalf. But nevertheless, that share count,
So bad.
he led NextBridge to file, a complaint against a trace station, a petition.
Yeah.
So that's all I have. I mean, our efforts are working. We just got to keep on pushing forward and don't give up. I know it's frustrating, but how many times have you heard me say this on Spaces, Richard? They got other things in their agenda. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world. But when you have Devin Nunes coming out, you see how Ken Griffin acted, right? He hasn't responded to MMTLP. Doug Seafood has. But when you have Devin Nunes calling out Ken Griffin and knowing that Trump might be the next president, they're in for a shit storm pretty soon here.
I've never heard you say that on Spaces, because usually when you talk, that's when I turn it off and I wait till the next person speaks. But
I'm sorry, you guys wanted me to talk. I keep on.
That was the first time I've ever heard you speak. I didn't even recognize your voice. Wow, pretty amazing. No, that was well stated, by the way. I think I spoke to somebody, a big shareholder this morning, and they had no idea what was going on. Just let you know. And but they were optimistic. My concern is that I'm very happy for DJT, because I think it did bring certainly more exposure. I know I just filed a report. I had to file my stupid arbitration. We still have a federal court that's kind of supervising us. So we have to file reports like every 4 months. So my counterparty prepared a joint report, but he didn't give me enough time. I filed a supplemental report, and in my supplemental report, I referenced Nunes and how he included the MMTLP letter as an attachment to his submission to the SEC and FINRA, just to kind of make sure the judge got a chance to see it. And they objected, by the way. But I hope that in coordination that we can get a final result. That's what I'm hoping. Bill?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see me?
View? I can see you.
I'm trying to enter with my phone, but it's not working. It says I'm a guest, but I'm not.
You actually look very good, by the way. Picture's really sharp.
They can't see me, but maybe that gives me an advantage that you don't have. My view on MMTLP is one very specific to each of us. While we're waiting to resolve for a resolution, we can resolve it in our own instance by getting our shares transferred to NextBridge. But I've made videos on that, and I'll skip that. In terms of a settlement, and this is something you could speak to, I see 3 paths broadly. Obviously, you can have more than one, but there's the legal route, there's sort of the congressional pressure, public pressure route, and you could put regulatory in that category. And then there's the financial institutions being motivated to settle it on their own. And I don't see any movement in any one of these. Now, I'm not as close to it as Busy, but to me, the legal path will take years. The congressional and regulatory path, if it ever was going to work, it would have already. So I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying there's going to be more time, unless DJP blows the lid off of it, which is possible. Yeah. And then on the brokerage side, I think the only way they settle on their own is as NextBridge becomes, the price of NextBridge keeps going up and they have bigger and bigger losses. They'll want to come to the table, but that's not evident to them right now. That's my very sort of muddy dancer.
Yeah, I think somebody's gonna have to kick him in the butt to get him to do anything.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a pretty legal, sophisticated
Yeah, I was gonna say.
legal terminology.
And the legal thing will take, because obviously there'll be plaintiffs' lawyers that will chase this, and eventually there'll probably be some positive results out of these plaintiffs' lawyers who will make a nice fee and generate, like 3 cents a share to shareholders. So there will be some legal positive resolution. But I'm really hoping that in combination with the DJT group and maybe just circumstances in the market, because we're wondering, I guess the theory is that at some point in time as liquidity drops out, then all these shorts are in trouble because they can't get the money they need. And perhaps that would cause an event, a market-wide event that we would be the beneficiary of. But I don't know. I honestly believe there's nobody specifically that knows what's going to happen. And that includes McCabe, by the way, from the very top to peons like us.
Well, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. Probably something.
You brought up something with McCabe that's been on my mind. On the spaces, I understand. I don't go on the space calls very often anymore because it's treacherous. But I understand there's a movement to try to, one I hope is just buried, is to ever get it trading. But the idea that it might trade NextBridge, I think McCabe better make sure he remains private. And I know and you can describe it. I know there's an issue because he's filing, which I think is great for us. He's filing with the SEC. There's some lawyers saying, well, then, in fact, he is behaving like a public company, which makes him public. If he trades, we're all screwed. And I think that includes the blockchain idea as well.
Well, the only kind of combination of circumstances that I saw that was where it kind of traded and they at least got a decent return was Adder, where the bankruptcy judge kind of forced the parties to figure out a cover price. And it may not have been 1,000, but it also wasn't $2. And it was designed to be more favorable to the interests of the company and the shareholders as opposed to the shorts. That did work out so that they got cover. The company got recapitalized to some degree. I don't know if that's always been something, because MMAT is in that position. MMAT, the stock's gotten hammered. And,
well, you know what happened. I mean, Torchlight got destroyed by the criminals.
Yeah.
And so Berta and the rest of the team, that was a shell that they gave to MMAT to go in. They got a piece of it. And then the shorts, the criminals destroyed MMAT. But they were able to move that blob of toxic counterfeit shares in the marketplace into that. And then they fraudulently created MMTLP. They thought they could continue moving it. My point is, if Greg McCabe ever goes public, they'll just move that blob further. And this I don't know, but I'm concerned that if they create a blockchain method of trading, credit default swap like documents will be created to hedge further destruction in the markets. But the good news is NextBridge doesn't have to go public. He's managing his assets very well. The trades he made in southern Louisiana, I forget the name of the zones, but those are company maker wells. Those are Wildcat, but those wells, if they work, can make a company. And he bought them, sold a bit, retained an interest, and as I understand it, he has enough money to drill the 5 wells he needs to drill on the Oro Grande this year and complete them. So it's really good. I think NextBridge doesn't need to be public.
Yeah. You any comment, Busy?
I'm just listening, and I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah,
he's on a space call.
Yeah, he's he's doing. He's a chronic listener. Yeah, it's amazing to me that it's still ongoing. It's I feel really bad for everybody, especially early on. The stories were just amazing, unfortunate.
It's terrible. It's
Yeah,
painful. It's painful.
it's terrible. I mean, the reason I got involved in this, honestly, I wasn't I've in my mind now I've become an activist attorney. I had no interest. I didn't wasn't a topic. When I heard in those spaces in whenever it was January of 2023, December 2022, just some of those stories, it was heartbreaking. Really?
It is beyond heartbreaking. And everyone like Jim Cramer, that jerk on TV, at least in this case, he's a jerk. I used to watch him, read his books, but he said, "Oh, buy caveat emptor." That's not right. People should be able to buy in the U.S. markets and trust what they're told. Nobody did anything wrong.
But Richard and William, it wasn't it refreshing to see. And I know you both are MMTLP shareholders, but was it any?
I am.
Yeah, me too.
The open letter that we worked so hard to get.
Yes.
Attached to the DJT complaint to the SEC.
Incredible.
Yeah, no, I mentioned that. I thought I put it in my I filed a brief with the federal court a couple days ago, and I referenced that.
So what I'm trying to say, like now you have somebody that it might be the next president. I know that people are making some kind of noise that Devin Nunes might be, the vice president. Regardless, if Donald Trump gets into office, we are attached to them no matter what at this point because they reference us. Why did they reference us? Because we're making headways. Again, I go back, Richard. How many tickers are doing this? How many tickers are actually having pissed off retail investors that are willing to get out of their chairs, go to DC, and walk the halls of Congress? I mean, please let me know which ticker's doing that, and if they are, they're not amassed like we are. Why is that? Because we cannot sell for a loss. I mean, think about that. We are stuck. We are frozen. That's why we're so pissed off. That's why we've been able to organize because we can't go anywhere. We're stuck. So I think that's the mistake that the other side made, and they were not anticipating.
Well, and remember, Busy, they're frozen too. They didn't expect that. That's why I think it's so important that Greg McCabe does not do anything to be public, because that's where they can FUCK us. My opinion. I'm not a lawyer or a blockchain guy, but anyway, I interrupted you.
What I was going to say about with that, I still think that we need to finish this less than 6 months after DJT got going, because that's when the lockup expires in 6 months. I think the kind of enthusiasm that we have now may not be the same.
Explain that. What do you mean by the lockup expires?
I think Trump can sell his shares at that point in time.
Oh, DJ. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
And then I would, I don't know, but I would think there would be a loss of enthusiasm if he got his money out and didn't have that risk.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
And I think it's a 6 month lock. I think it's 6 months.
The point I was trying to make is that if it does spill over, right? If MMTLP does spill over to next year and Trump is president, then you know that you have Devin Nunes, if he's still CEO of Truth Social, or if he becomes vice president, that this is going to be front and center, something that they want to rectify. And because we were attached to that open letter, I'm sure that we're going to be on their minds and we're going to have more leverage. So I know that, again, I go back. I know that you're reaching out to them. One of my contacts is trying to reach out to them, trying to get them, to come and talk to us, educate them more in regards to the MMTLP situation. But again, hopefully he comes on Charles Payne and he talks and mentions MMTLP. If he doesn't, we're in good hands, because if Trump is the next president and then MMTLP spills over to next year, I think that counterfeit sharing or the naked shorting is going to be front and center in their list and their agenda. This is my opinion, but we're in a good spot regardless.
Well, Busy, to go along with you a little bit, if they allow Trump in, Trump takes great pride in New York. He takes great pride in the United States. And I know he takes pride in the U.S. financial markets. So, yeah, I think we will be in good hands.
My only concern is, again, up to the election, I think we got like maximum leverage. After that, then I don't know what's going to happen. I think up to the election, I think it's a great issue.
Ham agrees with you because he thinks Trump can give his full effort before the election. After the election, I guess he's got to put his assets
in a blind
in some
trust,
sort
right?
of blind trust.
Yeah. He'll have less ability to control his own assets, and that doesn't mean that Devin Nunes can't do it. And he's obviously, I've heard him speak about this topic. He looks very comfortable speaking about it. Seems very well informed.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That is the spokesperson is sharp. I found that positive, right, BB?
I think he had some prior involvement in the stock market. I mean, I could look it up, but I think Savvy was mentioning that on her space call that he was involved.
Are you accusing him of insider trading? Is that what you just said?
I think Byron Donalds did too.
Yeah, I think that whole, by the way, Congress and stock trading, that is absurd. The fact that they can trade it all, period, while they're having access to inside information. I mean, I'd like that. I'd agree to that.
Richard, it's weird because like we were talking earlier, I still, for a long time, still view myself sort of in Busy's generation, but our generation, I don't remember this level of corruption. Maybe it was there and we were just, rose-colored glasses, but it didn't used to be this way.
Did not. There was, listen, there was a much bigger middle class.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what's kind of disappeared over time. So the difference in wealth was not like it is today. There's quite a big wealth gap.
There was more merit too. You could work hard. You could go to Podunk University and get just as far as Harvard, but now you got to go to Harvard or Yale or one or two others. Otherwise, you might as well drive a cab.
Yeah. Busy? Do you drive a cab?
I drive a Range Rover.
Nice.
Electric?
Well, my wife drives a Range Rover. I drive the truck.
Okay.
You drive your wife crazy. So, Richard, why did you say you said you're surprised that it's gone on this long, or you're disappointed it's gone on this long?
Surprised.
Did you ever think it would get done quickly?
I thought it would be sometime this year. So I don't know if that's quick. And it could still do it. So I guess I'm not that surprised. It's kind of looking at it. It's gone at the pace I thought. More than 2 years, that means you're kind of in a straight legal at that point in time.
Well, that's you're getting to my follow-up question.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where I've concluded for my own try to baseline my expectations is it's taken this long. Doesn't that tell us something? And shouldn't we just kind of accept that maybe Congress isn't going to do anything? Or am I wrong on that? Am I being pessimist?
I had a very unpopular view. I thought I would have used this as an anti-issue. I would have supported anybody who supported me, but I would be strongly and openly against anyone who was against me. And I would make that public. So that's me. In other words, as opposed to
you're
only
with us or you're against us.
No, if you're against us, you're against us. If you're for us, you're for us. If you're against us, you're against us. I
can't see the trees for the forest.
I just thought during an election year that you could make hay out of this because to me it's a populist issue.
Hey, Busy, invite Ace. I won't be able to see him, but Get him in here. That'd be great.
Yeah, why not?
Let me send him the link.
Ace is a great poker player, he says.
Poker.
That's his real name, by the way.
I just met her.
Did you know that's his real name?
Ace?
Ace.
Or poker?
No, Ace. Ace.
I didn't know that's his real name.
That's his, I know.
I didn't
Just
know
like,
that's his real name.
yeah, Busy Brands, that's his real name too, as it turns out.
So just tell him I won't be able to see him, which might give him an advantage all over me and you too. But so, Richard, I'm wondering what your thoughts are. See, you're at a disadvantage, I think. I certainly am. I'm not close to any negotiations with MMTLP. Busy might know more than we do, and there's others that are.
I've been in and out. I've had like really close sources and other times now, but I've never had a firsthand conversation with McCabe, for example.
No, and I really, that's for me too. I've never spoken to him, but oddly, I very strongly support him and am glad he's the guy in charge, but I've never spoken to him.
Yeah.
I don't know of any negotiations. That would be something that the people attending DC, if there's any. I've had a Zoom call with McCabe. Everybody knows that I got the Texas AG involved, and he was in one of those Zoom calls. And, you know, out of that connection, out of that networking, McCabe met with the Texas AG, and that's no secret. He put it in the filings when they came out. So yeah, I that's the only thing. My involvement with McCabe was joining a Zoom call with some community members that I respect, and they have McCabe on there, and so was the state attorney general's office from Texas. So that was my involvement. I don't know of any negotiations going on right now. And I'll probably be the last to know. That would be McCabe making that decision.
I know they've explored all kinds of, well, I don't know firsthand, but my impression is they've explored all kinds of avenues. You know, I had concern originally. I didn't know, let's say March of 2023, we're in 2024 now. I didn't know like who were the good guys, who were not the good guys. I didn't know in terms of like the corporate structure either. And I reached out to both NextBridge and MMAT because I wanted to see who would respond if we could get some information. And NextBridge has always been responsive. And like John Berta, he'll speak all the time. That always
John's great. I've known John. Oddly, I've never met him, but I've known John for maybe a decade from phone and email.
Business.
I've gotten to know him better.
Yeah. No, they reached out. So that gave me comfort. I didn't, you know, listen, I wasn't always in agreement with the strategy, but I didn't know the underlying, what was going on either. So where's Ace, by the way?
I'm wondering if there's, you know, this,
he's talking about it on his live.
Oh, he is. I'm wondering if I'm using Safari. Maybe I'm supposed to use Chrome. I don't know.
Or maybe Ace is dressed as Lucky.
And Ace, Lucky. Lucky's asleep right next to me. This is really intriguing. I didn't know I could use this.
I think you could do like 10 people, I think.
Well,
then he just hasn't called in yet.
No. He, like I said, he just gave me a heads up on his live that he's going to be joining. He's working on it. Richard, on your other live, before you crashed it with your jokes, did you talk about GPI? Did you talk about the meeting today, or that's just a hush hush?
I have not discussed that today.
Okay, please. Are you going to discuss it? Just wondering. Did I screw?
I really wasn't going to, but I'll just throw a vague comment out there.
Okay, just wait until Ace comes up. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Okay. All right. I'll wait till Ace comes.
When Ace comes, I'm going to go get my charger. But right now I've got 13%.
I thought you'd be a Redskin fan.
We're not allowed to.
Oh, that's right. What are they called?
The Commanders, which is even worse.
I know. You referred to the Charger, so I was the LA Chargers, that wonderful,
oh God.
right by Busy, right? That's your team, right?
I don't watch football.
I don't watch football either very much.
But
All right.
yeah,
So,
Here's
so
Ace. Here's Ace.
Ace.
Ace is the place.
What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Ace.
So Ace, two things. Welcome. Three things. Welcome to.
By the way, just so everybody could see, you look a lot like Busy Brands to me.
So this is I
can't see anybody. And three, I'm gonna go get my charger while you guys talk.
Okay,
I'll be
sounds
right
good.
back.
I'm live streaming on my other things. So I had to use an old channel to sign in, but
interesting.
Yeah, so I'm broadcasting you guys on my channel and yours.
Nice.
So fun stuff. But how's it going, guys? I had no idea this was going on.
Yeah, Busy set it up, but he just won't appear. It's really distressing, to be honest.
I still have never seen Busy's face.
I know. I think I honestly believe he looks like Lucky. That's the reason. That's the reason.
He keeps telling me he's a handsome man, but he won't show me his face to prove it.
Yeah.
He say he looks like Gaston or something.
Yeah, I know. I think Lucky is handsome myself.
He is. Look at pup.
My wife used to have a dog, and the dog's name was Handsome. So maybe that's it. I don't know. Busy. I had a visit. I'm waiting for Bill to come back.
Yeah, I'm here.
There it is. So I can't really get into details, but I visited a federal building today. That's all I can say.
Interesting. Down in LA?
Yeah, in LA.
So you filed a suit?
No, I didn't say that. Busy, what was your question before I said that?
I'm not gonna spill the beans. You're gonna have to take credit for that one. But it was in regards to GTI. You did.
Oh, that's what it was in regards to. Okay. I didn't remember. I don't know.
You gave a deposition.
No, I did not. I'm not going to get into details until it's more formalized. But the fact that I said it's a federal building should be.
Well, what federal buildings are that? You went to the naval base?
Well, there is a federal in LA. There's a federal building, so like immigration's there, passports. There might be other agencies that are associated with that.
Interesting. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Anyway.
You registered to vote?
I did see, by the way. I saw a comment yesterday.
In California, you don't need to register. You can just send in whatever.
You just that's a good guess. That's a good guess.
Said that.
That's a very good guess, Wickedums. Yesterday I saw somebody posted that they had contacted the SEC and the FBI about GTII. How do you like that?
Really?
Yeah. Now they just threw a ball at the building, so I don't know if that's going to amount to much, but I don't know.
Well, that's all they were doing their last 5 years, anyway.
Oh, you went to the IRS?
No, I did not, but I thought about it. But there's another day in the week. There's another day in the week.
Richard, you made a great point on your video today that I hadn't even thought of because of the excitement of the what we saw yesterday with the SEC complaint. It's that they had it for all that time.
Yeah.
And they just sat on it. I didn't even think about that. I was just so excited to see action in general. But they obviously been watching them the whole time.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of the Alpine where they kind of knew everything's going on and it's kind of, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And people are, us being the people, because that's who's buying those kind of stocks. We're getting sliced and diced.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Richard, did you want to talk about how all of this started? I don't think everybody knows how all of this stuff with GTI started.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I was compelled, but I started the way this started. It was a complete bluff. So I kind of pretended I was going to take certain action. I thought it was going to resolve in a day. And now 3-4 months later, I am going down to the federal buildings. So it didn't resolve in a day, but it was all I thought. There's no one in their right mind. This is honestly what I thought. Maybe this kind of supports what Billy was thinking about the CEO. I thought there's no way in the right mind with the facts being correct, because everything I said was correct, with the situation that somebody in that position wouldn't bail out. and 3 months later, they're still there. I know their knees are wobbling, and I know that everybody around them is not very happy. So hopefully, that was it.
Well, Richard, let's rewind back, because I was really upset, and the reason I was upset because the gentleman that I introduced to the company, actually he forked out a lot of money, and that property was evaluated at a good chunk of change. So GTI had a chance to close out that deal, and they just did an LOI, and I was wondering why these deals are not getting closed out. So I made a few phone calls, and then I know that you hopped on the phone, and that light bulb came up in our head, and we're saying, well, Richard and the other person I don't want to name, I said, isn't it funny that this company's open up LOIs? It almost feels like they're doing that on purpose to try to get the stock going. So this is how this all started. Now, Richard,
and just for clarity, a LOI is a letter of intent. So
correct.
It's basically an agreement to agree.
And this thing with the water deal was fast tracking. My guy spent a lot of money to try to in attorney fees. So it wasn't his fault. So when this 10K when Richard mentioned this 10K, I came to Richard and I said that, I talked to my guy, it's not the water deal. And then we spoke to somebody else. They said, no, it's not that deal. And then the Trento mine, it wasn't that deal. So we knew there was nothing coming out. So Richard knew that they were pretty much bluffing. So yeah, I care about retail investors. I know that GTI has been put through, GTI shareholders been put through the ringer. So thank for Richard that he's digging, and he keeps on going to keep on digging. If they don't want to, the skeletons of the closet don't want to, Richard to find them. I suggest that they hear to Richard and answer him back, because we're not going to stop. I think this is affecting other companies as retail investors. We're tired of getting screwed. And I'm glad that, groups of retail investors are coming together and they're just fighting back. It's bad enough, Ace and Richard and William, that we have to fight with the other side, right? The nefarious actors that are naked shorting stocks to death. But when you have a board here that you have an army of shareholders in the GTI community, they have your back, and you're not performing, you're not closing out deals, no, you have to go.
Yeah, what's interesting, a way of preserving kind of unanimity amongst the board that may not want to. If you're the CEO, for example, you might guarantee legal fees. So you might tell the board members, listen, if we get sued, I'll cover your legal fees. I won't otherwise. And that's a way of controlling the board. What it doesn't include, what kind of excludes, is sometimes you kind of lose control over a situation. So maybe you just thought it was a civil matter, but maybe it kind of goes elsewhere and your situation changes. And if anybody ended up getting into real trouble and went to jail, I don't think the CEO is going to serve time for anybody else. And generally what happens is somebody makes a promise to pay legal fees until they can't afford it anymore, or they decide not to. And tough. That's how it works. But it's very persuasive strategy, on other members, especially with small companies where people might be concerned about liability. But literally, I've been in touch with them since February 1st about every day. So they know everything. And I was saying I bluffed from the start because I wasn't intending to sue them and all that stuff. But I gave them everything I said was true, at least as far as I know. And everything that I projected was going to happen has. So I figured at some point in time, and I would bring that up to them just so that they wouldn't forget. I told you this and it happened this way. So I'm still hoping eventually they'll come around. I know there is one, we talked about the proxy fight. We went earlier on, we talked about it. I know as of today, there is one potential new lawsuit that might be against that group also. Haven't seen it, haven't spoken to a lawyer, but I heard some potential mention of it today. So hopefully these guys will come to their senses.
And Richard, You know what's so sad, and again, sad for retail investors. I've been approached, and there's 5, and you've been approached too, right? There's 5 companies that are willing to negotiate with GTII, and we haven't brought those companies to GTI because we just don't trust management. And you know, Richard, I mean, I could vouch for what you're saying, that there's people are approaching you, and they approached me too. But they're just not going to take the risk with current management. Sorry, guys.
I literally had a conversation with someone after I put on a video that basically said, I'm obviously joking, but the title of my video was GTII management are scumbags. And then I spent 20 minutes telling them why they were scumbags. And then the guy calls me afterwards and says, yeah, I'm interested in doing a deal with those same guys. His interest was, as long as there's full disclosure and the management's gone, then he had no problem. It was more the undefined things and the things that you don't know about that they were more concerned about. But that was literally after, like, the worst information come out. There were still people that were interested in doing transactions with the company. And it can only be, it can be a lot of things. My hunch is, it sounds like that the CEO really wasn't interested in doing a transaction, and he had more of a retirement plan set up where he would just sell his shares on a monthly basis. And he had a lot of shares, still does, and he'd live off that share, which is nothing wrong with it, except if you're not truthful about it.
I hate to be a little bit I'm going to say something that I can't, has no foundation, but it's possible. Remember, there was, I think, 26 million shares out of Switzerland calling around, trying to find a seller. I think you can look at it that this is a big problem. People are at risk, and it's a lot of money. And I don't think you can rule out that money's been spent, threats have been made, promises made that maybe change people's behavior. And I guess I don't really want to go further than that, because.
So you're saying you're being a little contrarian. You're being a little more sympathetic to the position.
I'm actually saying it's possible that Reichman was bought out by the criminals.
Well, the way I
put it as bluntly as I can.
Yeah, I don't know the motivation, but I do believe somebody can act a particular way for a particular period of time and then change their stripes. It can happen. You could act great for 19 years. You can act great for 19 years, and year 20 you decide, just kind of like what you said at the beginning. I've waited a long time. I'm entitled to this. Whatever. It's my company, so I'm gonna, I'm gonna get the benefits. I'm gonna get the benefits out.
Could be that.
Isn't it completely possible too? He just got tired. He thought maybe
he could be tired.
I threw all this stuff at him and it didn't work, and now I quit, basically a quiet quit.
No.
It could be that. It could also be that the alternatives aren't attractive. So you end up sort of, you did the fight. A lot of CEOs, I think, end up this way. If I take the deal, or if I just calm down, at least my family will have health care, will have some salary, but I'm too old to go learn a new trick. I think it's possible, but
he also may not have gotten the resistance at that time. In whenever the middle of 2023 may have been different crowd that he was dealing with, and he still may have been hoping amongst hopes that the stock would go up, everybody would make a bunch of money, and if everybody made a bunch of money, nobody's going to give him problems.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Because for a long time it was holding above 2 and the high ones. Yeah. First GTI, that was high.
Listen, almost every Ponzi scheme starts that way, right? The guy who's the Ponzier is doing something, and he then decides to kind of escalate that, and he's hoping that he can recoup everything and pay everybody back. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen. And they may have started with the best of intentions, but they quickly change. So I don't know if he was well intended. and things kind of got away from him. And
Mm-hmm.
and again, you know, at this point in time, to be honest, it's a huge amount of stress.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for somebody in that position, and for a young man, it would be a huge amount of stress. For a octogenarian, yeah, that's a big pile, and everybody is associated with him is of similar.
I mean, he's as old as Mick Jagger. Oh, sorry.
I think he's younger than the president of the United States, though.
There's a different way of looking at it that's not saying something bad about him. He brought in this guy who, for the life of me, I don't know why this gentleman would take the job.
Mm-hmm.
That's a derivatives trader. My own, and I'm telling you, in these communities, I've talked to Busy about it before. I am just really skeptical of anybody that comes up and says hi to me the first time I meet him. I'm like, what are you trying to do? And so that could be my bias. But why would a derivatives guy who's had a career come to some penny ante shell POS company? I think it's possible he's here because the problem's big, and he's trying to make sure that he has a direct access to whoever has built the counterfeit share position. But Richard would never say anything like that, because an attorney, you can't. I have no factual basis. It's just my suspicion.
Well, I had limited communications with. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to answer this one because William makes a great point. And I just went through this today. I'm not going to say who I spoke with, but William is 100% correct. This happened in Ace. You know this. This happened to GME. There's a consulting group. It's called Boston Consulting Group. They came into GME. Ryan Cohen ousted them out. AMC did not. Now you have Meta Materials, which went through the same similar situation that you're speaking about, William. It's not Boston Consulting Group. It's another consulting group. So 100%, yes, they come in and they destroy the company within. I'm not saying that that's taking place at GTII, but it makes you scratch your head and wonder why they have all of these deals lined up and they're not closing them.
There you
Exactly.
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Back up to what William's saying.
There you go.
If you're a CEO of a company, and we schooled this guy from Allure, a CEO from Allure that came into a space, within 5 minutes, 100 and Michael from BBBY community dismantled his board and where they were from. If you're a CEO of a company and you have somebody like William say, hi, how you doing? Hi, you have to do a full background and understand that you need to hire people that are actually do backgrounds on the people that are coming on your board and where exactly they're coming from, because that's their tactic right now. The Citadels like to, and you could go back, don't take my word for it, go read up on it. Boston Consulting Group, where these people come from Citadel. So they'll infiltrate the companies and destroy them within. Exactly what's happening in Meta Materials right now.
Well, you know, I'm hoping they're listening to this, because I had one conversation with him. I wanted to see if he was interested in doing a transaction. My conclusion in our conversation, I think he was driving in the car. So we had a conversation while he was driving. My conclusion was he was not. My conclusion was he was not, because I think he said it. It wasn't just like I was speculating. So after that one conversation, I lost any interest in having any communication with him. I didn't think he was, and by the way, he may be a great guy, maybe a super professional, maybe an expert, but my conversation left me not feeling very good. And then what happened after that is, so now literally since February, I send emails to the board of directors, the two attorneys, and the past month it's been to Mr. Rabari, as he's on the board now. So here's a guy, I can't see, how could David pay this guy enough? If he has these kind of credentials, how could he pay him enough for this job? And now with not just me, but like I said, some person told me they contacted the SEC and the FBI. There's litigation ongoing. What is this guy doing? Why would you pick this as your great place to stop off? If you're a superstar, this is not your stop. If you're not a superstar, then what are you doing here?
If you're not a superstar, it's not your stop either. The 500 million shares that Ham talks about, let's not argue about it. Let's just assume that for this situation, that's a big problem if Alpine's going to be expelled. It's a big, so you come management. What Busy said, it's a big problem if all of a sudden you bring in a $300 million asset. It's a big problem if you bring a $2 billion asset to the table. But that he's there to manage that.
Again, he may be brilliant. He may be he might be caught up in this too. Maybe it's unexpected to him, although I would be surprised, because if he was taking this position, I would think he would have done enough due diligence or just watched one of Busy's videos to know what was going on. But
it's too risky to his future career to go work for this.
And maybe, again, we're kind of speculating. Again, he might be a brilliant expert, whatever. Just the circumstances don't seem to add up. That's all.
Yeah, 100%. The only thing that made sense is when he first came on, if a deal had come up right after. Yeah, that's what we were all expecting. If he joined and then deals just hit, then it was like, exactly. And then I was like, yeah, okay. That's what we were all expecting in December when it was announced. It was like, oh, maybe they're finally doing something. Busy. We knew about a lot of these deals on the table. Yeah. It's like, maybe he's going to help them close them. Maybe he's bringing one. But I mean, it's been almost 6 months now and he's on the board. Everything you're saying, it's obviously something weird going on.
Ace, I agree with that. That was the logical thing. But and I know that I'm being a bit of a deck, but it's possible he has sabotaged in order to protect his real clients, his real interests. And look, if he ever hears this, I'm willing to change my mind on a dime. Sure. If I meet him and
let him show it, though.
Tells me I'm wrong.
Yeah, but he knows what this company's been all about for 2.5, 3 years, though, with the shareholders and everything. So it's his job to communicate. That's how I see it.
But I know what you're saying, Bill, about that. That line of thinking. I try not to go there. I just say, excluding that, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Even like if you're fully on the up and up and you're trying to do everything for the benefit of shareholders, it doesn't seem like this engagement matches you.
The other thing it said when they hired him, it said he was hired to help with a transition, which made us think that maybe they were transitioning Reichman out and he was finally moving on. But obviously that wasn't the plan, at least at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's nonsense. Yeah, I think that was a false statement. Just absolutely. But I was, in my dealings, I was amazed, like I got written promises. And which to me, why would you put something in writing? First of all, why would you do that? There were so many like things that were not material to the company, just kind of process that as it went on made you question the company because of the way they handled like little details. Mm-hmm. You were going to say something, Bill?
Yeah, my experience, and it's different than everybody else's, I suppose. But as I look back on it, for example, I used to, and I still am trying to, I used to raise money for companies. I mean, to be just simplistic about it. And I would attend conferences and I would go to breakout rooms and I could sit with the CEO and the team with a whole room full of people. And I could ask a question. For example, I sat next to the chairman of Exxon and I asked him a question one time, but it could be smaller companies too. And one thing I noticed, there was one guy, his first name was Josh, but no one knows him here, so I can use that. I liked him and we got to know each other. He didn't drink and we would talk afterward, but he would always ask questions. About 4 years ago, somebody told me, you know where he works? I said, no, he works for a short seller. I said, what is he doing? What they're doing, the criminals, if I can use that term, they have everything under control. They bribe the halls of Congress. They've got the mouse in charge of the SEC. They've got journalists looking the other way. They have the market, everything. But the one thing they can't control in the oil and gas business, they can't control. What if the company drills a gusher out of the blue and it changes the story? Well, in the case of GTI, I'll get to my point. In the case of GTII, what was being talked about was Trento Mines.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew about that. The criminals in Chicago, the criminals in New York, the criminals in Arizona, in the Cayman Islands, they didn't know anything about Trento Mines. This might have scared the bejesus out of them. And so they bring this guy in to learn and to diffuse it, because that's what the shorts, they can't get a black swan. They can't have a black tail. They can't stand an overnight change in the provable change in the value of the shares. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Unfortunately, gentlemen, I have to leave you. I have to go take care of Aggie and Dante.
Are those two little
not so little
Rhodesian Ridgebacks?
Yes, they are the two Rhodesian Ridgebacks. But somebody told me that they saw their experience was that the Rhodesian Ridgeback that they knew was not the friendliest of dogs. Mine are sweetheart. Mine are sweetheart.
They are great dogs. Mm-hmm. They are great dogs.
Anyway, this was a pleasure. Let's do this again.
Do it again.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I got to buy a computer and we'll do it again. This was a very nice forum, and I want to keep talking. Stay on.
Yeah, you guys continue. You guys continue. Have a good evening, Bill. I will watch you guys.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for everything.
Thank you, Richard.
Billy, take care. Have a good night.
Thank you. And Ace, I interrupted you a couple times, but you have some great ideas there. I'd like you to just talk a bit.
Oh man, I don't
Busy too was both were very educational to me, so I don't need to do any more talking if you guys can go.
I mean, I was listening to you guys more than anything. I feel like you guys, especially you two, well, actually all three of you, I know you guys do more behind the scenes than I do, and I just kind of commentate from the outside. But all I was saying is that at first, I feel like we, for the last 2 years, didn't have much reason to distrust GTI because they'd done so many things that seemed positive, whether it was the dividend, the warrants. Obviously, they couldn't close a deal, and that was always the frustrating part. But they did all these other things that Han would recommend, or, we had defeats, but they would get things done to trap them. But the Luke Rabari thing it was so confusing. And I really think the more I hear from you guys and everything, it does make sense. I mean, for all I know, Trento is actually very close to happening, and then it just didn't.
Right
After he came, and that that's obviously very frustrating. And anyways, I know there's some things like I've heard, like I don't know if we can share yet, but it's just been frustrating. But I have a lot of hope in what's going on because of the fighting going on, whether it's from Richard's angle or just shareholders speaking up. I just think when you've come this far, they haven't completely short-circuited our chances here yet, as far as I can tell. So that we at least still have that. And in fact, somebody said that, William, if you unbutton one more button, it might cause the squeeze.
That's hilarious. But Ace, you hit the nail on the head, right? Again, going back to MMTLP, they weren't expecting retail shareholders to.
I can't see myself.
Okay? They weren't expecting retail shareholders to amass and get so upset and pissed off that they're going to walk the halls of Congress. Well, guess what? GTI wasn't expecting for because Richard is a retail shareholder, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They're retail shareholders. They weren't expecting for us to start digging. And the difference between shareholders now that you have technology now that you could amass either it's in a live or on a space call. You could talk about these things, and then you have bright minds that join those spaces or join the lives, and you start talking about it and educating. And now you have an attorney here, which is a shareholder that's so upset, and he starts digging. And let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff that Richard hasn't spoken about out of, out in the open that he's conversating with me. So if they think that that's all Richard has, forget about it, like they say in New York. He has more. He just hasn't shared a lot more because he's giving them a chance. He's giving them a chance. But if they don't act, Richard's gonna come out with more.
I have more too, and I know that you do, Busy. But here's our situ. Everybody wants to know, and there's the transparency is important, the trust building is important, but guess who's listening? The shorts are listening. So any strategy we have, they can diffuse the power of it. But I actually think we're going to get them. And it's just we have to rebuild the momentum. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Well, that's starting. I mean, with we got this Alpine stuff and this SEC complaint against the Kramers. How crazy is that? That's both happening in the same month, by the way. And I know we're just entering the process, but the fact that you saw the 5.5 million shares trade in GTI the last 2 days, so there's interest rebuilding. And if something can happen on the back end with management, we know there's deals waiting. This can turn around really fast.
Well, here's what can happen, and I got to be, because if people have listened to me carefully since summertime, this battle inside I called it Palace Intrigue, the battle in the boardroom, it's been going on a while. But one of the issues, I'm trying to say it without saying it. I guess you just got to say things, but they can reduce the number of outstanding shares, or they can bring those shares back into the company. And that would be a huge step forward. Yeah,
that's a good point. And I mean, I don't know exactly where we're at with everything, but just like you said, there's enough there to not give up the fight. And I think yesterday you could just feel it in the community. There's definitely some renewed interest building again. We just got to keep our foot on the gas with calling out what's going on in management.
Well, new manager comes in, there's no other way to go but up.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
So any deals that come in, I mean, it's just gonna send us the stock. My opinion is gonna skyrocket. But how? Go ham. Gotta give him credit. Kramers.
Yeah.
For how many years? And all the shills were blasting ham. There's no concentrated short positions in here. This guy's crazy. He's just too blue in the face. He's Kramers. And what happened? Kramers are
I did a video last night, Busy, 2 of them, and I'm sure they're very long and people sped through them, but it helped me put my thoughts together on the complaint. But during it, I pointed out that this one gentleman sang a song making fun of me on Christmas Day, and all the other people are laughing and giggling and joining in. Well, you know what? It was all based on the idea that I said the Kramers crime. Well, the SEC just said that Kurt Kramer's the criminal.
Yeah, man, that's such a good point. We cannot discount how much validation came from yesterday. For Ham, for you, William, for all the people who've been saying this since way before I was here. That alone, that trust that's built, that's also bringing new momentum in, because a lot of people were getting tired. A lot of people were starting to have doubts. Well, now the doubts are gone. And so, every little shot in the arm helps in this is the point. And I feel like yesterday was a big one.
Yesterday was huge. I just caution that, things can happen very quickly, and the markets can change. You don't even know why, but we have to work deliberately, intelligently, and together, and we can get these bastards. I really think there's been some indications that show they were scared about losing a lot of money over the last year. And what's changed, really? What's changed?
Yeah. And sometimes it's just a war of attrition. And if we outlast them, I mean, at this point,
that's a
with
good
the pressure coming on, I mean, I know these SEC cases can take a while once they start moving through the courts and everything. But at the same time, they know they're being watched even closer now. They know they're about to enter into a court case. I mean, how much longer can they keep up what they're doing, knowing everything they're doing now is being watched and recorded for this case against them? I'm sure if it enters into criminal complaints, it starts becoming much scarier for them as well, which could happen
today. See, you're pretty smart. I heard today, secondhand. I didn't get it directly, but I heard that somebody close to this kind of a process, at least maybe this specific process, said that first it's the civil and then it goes criminal. So you might have it nailed. This might be the SEC first, and then it could be the DOJ against Kramer. But then I'm worried about the fact that the attorney Kramers has is a partner at Gibson Dunn. That's but
wow. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, the SEC lawyers want a job at Gibson Dunn. They want a job at Goldman Sachs.
Interesting. I'm wondering why they pulled the trigger now, the SEC did, after having it all this time. Is it because of the publicity from DJT making this such a big deal, stirring up Congress with Devin Nunes, or is it because of something else? I mean, maybe they know to me, the market looks like things are going to break at some point in the next few months. And do they see that coming and they want to get out in front of it so that it looks like they're doing stuff? I don't know, but the timing is very interesting right now heading into summer.
Well, it could be as simple as Gensler's term might be coming up. And my view is it's possible, Ace, that because of Ham's hard work, the truck, and the constant phone calls, all of that, that there's been an investigation going on all along. I tried to highlight it when Richard was on the call. I just couldn't find it. I should have printed it out and underlined it. But in that document, they state that Kramer said something under oath during an investigation about something, claimed he was a dealer or something. This investigation might have just run its course. It might have been going on for the last 2 years, and they want to get it in before so they can win, punch their stamp, and go get a better job in the private side. I don't know. It could be that. It could be that Alpine's going down and they want to get on the record that they've been fighting this and not be embarrassed about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm just speculating, obviously based on everything, but it just, to me, there's been a lot going on in the markets, the economy, politics, especially since March, and so just to me the timing's very interesting with all of that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ace, but there's no speculation here. When you were involved in such a transaction with GTII, you know damn well there was no reason for them not to close out the deal. So it was definitely a head scratcher.
Sure.
I don't want to divulge any information out of respect for my other partner, but there was no reason for GTI to close out that deal. It was clean, ready to go, fast tracking, and all of a sudden LOI came out, boom, ghosted my guy.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not excusing GTI. I'm talking specifically about SEC and the Kramers.
None of us can know what's going on. There is a lot of risk, of course, because they've won. If you read the thing, he has 325 companies he's destroyed.
That's crazy.
if he used Alpine as his prime broker for all of those, and all the LLCs used Alpine, one can understand why Alpine never closed out per se. We don't know for sure, but didn't close out the shorts in GTII because they wanted all the other business, and maybe the other businesses were tamping down the losses. Maybe it was all mixed together. I don't know. I don't know how it works. 325 companies through March of last year. They had another year to go on.
Mm-hmm.
It's just incredible.
Well, the 100 billion shares is wild.
100 billion
too.
shares. I did a arithmetic live, and I'm sure I'm wrong. Let me try to do it again. If you have 100 billion shares and you make 1/1000th of a penny on 100 billion shares, so you multiply that by 0.001 or 0.0001.
1,000th would be 0.0001. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. Let's see what it comes up to. $10 million if you make 1/1000th of a penny. But you're not making 1/1000th of a penny. You're probably making 100th of a penny or more.
That's crazy because it said they've only made 75 million, that's just what they were able to record. On top of that, what's 100 billion divided by 325? I mean, how many shares is that per company?
Well, and that's, somebody made that point. Maybe it was not legal advice. And Ham's made it before on the public announcements. They don't tell you the names of the other companies.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that got harmed in the other companies.
Absolutely. There's somebody wrote, I don't think this would happen, but is it possible because of an investigation the SEC would tell GTI not to do a deal? That doesn't sound right to me, but
no.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No, they might. It's possible they could slow walk approvals and filings and things like that, but I don't think they could tell you not to do a deal.
I wouldn't think so either, because that would completely hamstring the business if it's already struggling. It's already dying.
It's already in purgatory.
Someone was asking earlier if you could see any situation where Reichman would want to declare bankruptcy instead of giving up the company, but I feel like he'd lose his cash cow then.
Well, he doesn't have much of a cash cow. If you've noticed over the last bit of time, I've come down pretty hard on it because he needs to wake up. He doesn't have anything. He awarded himself whatever between them all 300, 200, I don't know, a lot of stock, and they're selling 1% a month. Well, if he keeps going on in this somnolent way, he'll be selling it at half a penny. And it won't mean anything. He'll sell 1%. He'll be able to fill up his coffee cup. So it's not a really good long-term strategy for Reichman either. He's got, I don't know how much of that cash he has left from the warrant. So the only incentive he really has left is to protect his health care if he has insurance, to me, and protect his reputation. But and look, I'm not 80, and I had a boss that used to say, you know who wants to live to 90 years old? The guy that's 89. And that's, you're still there, but
I'm still here. Busy left.
Busy comes and goes. But that, he may be thinking he still has a career left ahead of him, but he has to face facts. He really doesn't. So all of us have to face facts. It's the hardest thing. George Jones has a song, The Cold Hard Truth. And when I was really young, my mother, a lot of difficulties, but the one thing she could turn and just I remember on some school assignment. She could just lay it out, and you couldn't argue with the hard truth that she was saying. You can't, when it comes to money, when it comes to things like this, you can't lie to yourself. We all do it. And maybe he's just lying to himself that there's still a future for GTII. I used the term with him that he aged out. I just don't, he had a great idea. I think he had a great idea. Being a public company that incubates other companies.
Yeah.
But there's a stock out there. I read their website. It's the recruiter.com company became a shell, but the business went into this new company. It's still called recruiter.com. And so I'm confused. You know, the website is for that, but you read it, it's the same stuff that Reichman does, only it's much better. If you listen to DBMM, these services they offer, it's different somewhat, but it's much better for a young organization than going into a group of 80-year-olds and saying, how can you get my AI company to float? It's just, unfortunately, time passed by, and for Reichman, he just has to face the fact that it's over.
Well, maybe with Biden getting elected, he just believed he could do anything at 80. Like, it inspired him. Could be president someday.
I've got to be careful in my comments because YouTube is a place that Izvestia or Pravda would have been proud of 40 years ago. I mean, you can't say everything. We live in the country of free speech, and you can't exercise that right. But I think your statement about Biden being elected.
Hey,
don't get banned.
Yeah, just a heads up. I'm trying to get Arca in here to talk about some GTI analysis. So he may join. He's doing his own live also, Ace and William. But I'm going to see if he could actually join and do his GTI analysis live on the air.
Tell Arca to stop stealing our moves. No. No, that's great. That's great. And Arca comes in with his charts and he starts saying spot this and to spot that and zoom. He's great.
Busy, you're such a connector, man. You just bring us all together.
I try my best, sir.
So Ace, I half the audience probably doesn't care, but I'd love to hear some of your politics. Don't piss off people though. I will quickly say I think Byron Donalds for VP. I will also say that Biden wins the nomination and goes to the convention, but at the convention, the superdelegates have a choice of Pelosi, Obama, Clinton.
Oh God.
Pelosi being Newsom, Obama being Michelle Obama.
Sure.
And Clinton being Hillary or Jill. I think they're going to go with Hillary. But anyway, I'd love to hear what you think.
I love political speculation. That's fun for me. I love the Byron Donalds call. I wish I agree. Well, I agree he would be amazing and I would love it. I don't think it's going to be him. I think it's more likely to be JD Vance, who I also really like. You don't like JD Vance? Oh, I thought you'd like him.
I don't know him, but here's my thing. Trump cannot expand his vote amongst women. It's impossible. But with Latinos and African Americans or blacks, whatever, I'm sorry. If he picked Byron Donalds, he could make inroads with black men.
I completely agree. I completely agree. I like Byron Donalds a lot. I hope he goes that route. That's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing JD and it won't be Tim Scott. I think it's going to be JD Vance or Tulsi Gabbard.
I love Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, I think Tulsi has a good chance, and Tulsi would definitely bring in some independents.
Why do you like JD Vance? I mean, I don't even know anything about him.
Well, he's a self-made guy.
But he's really conservative, and
he's actually more populist,
libertarian.
like Trump. No, not very much. He's so. Do you ever hear about that book, Hillbilly Elegy?
Yes.
Or the movie? That was him. His life story. He was raised in the Appalachian Mountains as like a poor kid, drug addict family, and anyways got out of it. And now he's in, I think he's Ohio, but anyways, just strong guy, real good tie to working class. And he's a strong MAGA type. He is, but at this point, I don't know if that'll hurt.
And he's male.
And he's male. Yeah.
It's the one area that no one wants.
Yeah. I think, this is my theory with Trump, is that he's less concerned about picking a VP for votes than he is in picking a VP who will be loyal to him, because Pence was such a backstabber.
He doesn't want the camera stolen from him, but
he doesn't want another Mike Pence situation either.
Oh my God, Mike Pence. But Ace, what they successfully did by splitting, I got to be careful with my words. If he had a second term, he would have had at least 2 years to make some more changes. By interrupting it, they reversed a lot of what he did in the first term. And now they've turned, even if he's reelected, it's a lame duck. So the power.
I disagree, but yes.
Well, my thinking anyway, the power of his second term is who his VP is, because the VP, if she or he could be reelected, he has the power of a first term again.
See, I agree with you there. And I think that's why he's picking a VP who will continue to build the legacy without betraying the MAGA movement, which Mike Pence would have. And Mike Pence clearly did. He's an establishment rhino Republican. And so I think Trump's being very careful about that. That's why he won't choose Tim Scott, because Tim Scott will just go with whatever the Republicans want him to do. Trump's the only one powerful enough to pull him aside, but once Trump's gone, he'll go the other way again. And Tulsi is just a little left on some areas. I think Tulsi would make a great Secretary of State. I don't know if I want her to be president.
Tulsi won't bring Democrats. They don't like her. She won't bring women, because Hillary and the DNC doesn't like her. I really like Tulsi.
I like Tulsi too. I just don't want her to be president because of some of her leanings are different than mine. But I think she'd be great in the administration. Like I said, I'd love Byron Donalds. I think he could be great.
I hope he doesn't pick Stefanik. I hope he does not pick.
No, she's not even being mentioned.
I think Noam is a nightmare.
No. Yeah, I agree with Noam.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but he won't pick her.
And she's doing a great job where she's at right now. Noam, I think this latest campaign thing just is killing her. This book tour, it's ruining any chance she had.
I think that's an act of God to save us from her.
I tell you this much: JD Vance is an excellent pick if you're fighting the naked short war. He's extremely knowledgeable in market mechanics. He was supportive of MMTLP in the very beginning, quietly, supportive. And now he's involved helping MMTLP. I think he'll be a great pick.
All right. Okay. I'll go with it.
I'm leaning that way, but if he went Byron Donalds, I'd be elated as well. And then on the Biden side of things, I think that I personally think they're stuck with him, but I think you're right that that's what they want to do. However, I don't think he's backing down, because he's hoping to stay in to protect his family from charges, corruption charges, all that. And the word is, and this came from what's his kid, James O'Keefe's, when he busted this guy, this Democratic staffer, they said that they had been basically begging Michelle to do it, and she didn't want to do it.
She doesn't want to do it.
And then also trying to get hoping Biden would step down, but he won't. And now they're feeling stuck with him. And Hillary won't do it because Hillary's a loser, and the Democrats never renominate a loser. They know when somebody loses, they're done. And
well,
People hate Hillary more than anybody else.
I can't say it on YouTube, but if they did turn to her, I think they'd make sure she won.
They will try. I think it's getting to the point where they won't have enough to ensure somebody wins. And I'm going by the poll action right now, which polls always skew left. And yet Trump is running further ahead in the polls than any Republican since Reagan. No Republican's ever been getting the numbers he's had and lost. And if you take how close the last election was, which we all know was not up to par under the microscope, you don't even need a good microscope. The differential is still so tight. And now if you add the 8 to 10 point swing in the polls from where Biden was then to where Trump is now, you get almost 12 to 15 million more votes that are looking in Trump right now, which they would have to cover. And I don't think they can cheat enough this time. That's my personal thought based on what we're seeing. And on top of that.
Yeah, but there's polls out there that pop up say that Biden's winning.
Oh, sure. But not the good ones.
Us ready for it.
Yeah, you're right. They're trying, or they're trying to fire up their base that he's not losing. But if you go by the aggregates, which is what I always look at, which is where they take all the polls together, that the aggregate has Trump up 8 points of where Biden was at the same point in 2020. And so you take that aggregate, which, weighs all of them together. That to me is more accurate. And then on top of that, we have most of the swing states, which are the ones that matter the most, because the red states will stay red, the blue states will stay blue, most likely. Most of the swing states tighten their voter laws. Some of them not enough, in my opinion, but they still made it a little bit harder too.
And we all know Georgia is a blue state.
Yeah. So I have a lot of hope based on what I'm seeing.
Do you think he will replace Kamala Harris? Will the Democratic Party replace Kamala Harris?
Well, here's the thing. They could try, but there is the Democrats are eating themselves right now.
I mean, she does have up to 1% of support.
Yeah. Remember when she was running and she got like 1.5%? I have a popular VP pick there, Joe. We did it, Joe.
Well, he did that because of the congressman from South Carolina. God, I met him once. Stood next to him, said hi to him. You know his name.
South Carolina.
South Carolina. He was on the bridge with. He went on. He was in the civil rights. He was on the bridge when they.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. The one who died. Yeah, and they made the big deal about it. Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
Begins with a C, maybe. But anyway, he made a deal with Biden that he would bring him South Carolina if he made sure he made that pick for vice president, and Biden made the pick for the Supreme Court. He made.
Yeah. Interesting.
That was the deal.
I didn't know that. That makes a lot of sense, though, because why else pick her? But what I'm seeing, though, is that
it wasn't specifically her. It was just that she had a
black
somewhat
woman,
darker skin.
Oh, okay. Well, he did make that pledge too.
And she was maybe that she
black
was a
woman
woman
or something.
Yeah.
So I just think that the Democrats are such a mess right now. You see, they can't figure out how to make their base happy with all this Israel stuff. And it's just it's their people rioting. It's, while they're in power, it's such a mess. If the convention does what you think it could do, and I do believe it's possible, that will just cause even more disarray and unhappiness. Nobody likes Biden, but nobody likes any of those other people either. Newsom is not popular right now. Everybody in America except Californians hate California with what they're doing. And so Newsom has no popularity outside California. And even in California, he's facing, I think, his third recall.
You guys are going through this. The United States, even in its hardest time, was always a great place to live. And it's amazing. We're tearing ourselves apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to stop it. I guess we just got to see it through. Um, you brought up Israel, and I guess that follows the Gaza Strip. Two questions. Do you think young people are siding with the Democratic Party and, frankly, with Trump on supporting Netanyahu blindly? That's one question. And secondly, is more just out of interest. What is it about Christianity in the United States that supports, I guess, I don't understand it, that you have to bring back God because the temple is rebuilt or something.
Okay. Oh, William,
I don't know.
You're talking my language here. This is my stuff.
Well, I'm asking you because you're the preacher. You're the preacher man.
So number one, just to go, first of all, the young people are not for it at all. If there's a split in the young people, but they hate the Democrats for this. They are mostly, well, I don't know if mostly is the right word to say, but they're not blindly into trusting Israel the way other generations were. And there is a big like pro-Palestinian thing going on too, but they hate their Democratic leadership for this. And as you know, young people tend to trend Democrat. They hate it. And most of them do. Don't believe what you see on Twitter. Those guys are paid to act like they love Biden. But so that's splitting the Democratic Party with Trump, even though I agree with you, Trump has been a little too cozy with Netanyahu for my like. And I'm not anybody who's pro-Hamas, I'm not blind on either side. I just don't want innocent people to die. Did you find him?
I mean, Gerald Celente put out a number today that let me get it right, 40,000 people have been killed. And more than half of them are children, and then 80,000 have been casualties. Injured.
I believe it. Yeah. And so what I think's happening is Trump isn't getting a full pass on it, but he's also they're not looking at him for it. And the reason is this: even though Trump says stuff that's cozier with Netanyahu than even I'd like, he has the track record of 4 years in power where there was no war. And he constantly says, in my opinion, the right thing, that if I get in power, like I'll get this stuff to stop. And since he has a 4-year track record on it, I think I'll tell you right now, the first time Trump ran, his campaign was a mess and it was just a miracle he got in. Right now, I think he's running one of the best campaigns I've ever seen.
Wow.
He is saying everything exactly as should say, where you can't be too hard on him. Like with what he did with the abortion, where he said, let's leave it to the states. I got Roe v. Wade undone. Now let's leave it to the states. That took away all the ammo people had trying to say he's going to ban it and everything. So he's just been very tight in his words and been playing it very well. And I think that's why he's not suffering big.
The great tragedy of Russia, because Hillary lost, she had to blame it on Russia, not herself, is that she made it impossible for Trump to meet with Putin. That would have been political suicide. I hope the first foreign visitor that he has or meets is Putin. We cannot go to war. And I agree with you that Trump is against the killing. He said it many times.
Oh, yeah.
I want to stop the killing. That's what he said.
Yeah, which is exactly what people want to hear.
The killing.
Yeah, and we don't need to be involved in this stuff anymore. Trump taught us that, where after, the Democrats used to say it, but they didn't do it. The Republicans were always looking for reasons to go to war. And all of a sudden now the Democrats are the neocon wing. It's the weirdest thing. But the fact is Trump's the only president in forever that didn't get us into any thing and tries to keep us out and showed us that we don't have to constantly be at war, which, hadn't been seen in decades. So he's got that going for him. Now about the Israel thing. So the Christian church in America, if you go back to the early 1900s, the first study Bible that came out to the church in the Western Hemisphere, Europe and US, that was a bestseller, was a Schofield Study Bible. And so it went huge. Everybody was like, oh, I don't understand my Bible. I'm going to buy the study Bible so I can understand stuff. Well, in the Schofield Study Bible, there's a eschatology. They built the notes around about Revelation and all the end of the world prophecies and stuff. And it's called dispensationalism, was who wrote the notes. It came from a guy named John Darby in the 1800s. And this eschatology is very Israel-based, very fear-based, very scary, we have to have the world collapse so Jesus can come back. We need Israel has to rebuild itself and build the temple, and all this stuff is put into this Bible, and it became part of most Western theology, especially in evangelical church, but it's spread far beyond that now. And that's what you're seeing, because there's this belief now. And then what happened 20 years after this Bible came out, 30 years after this Bible came out, all of a sudden Israel's a nation again. And everybody looked at that as confirmation of these biblical prophecies. And so ever since then, they've been holding on to this. And every time Israel's at war, they think it's the end of the world. It's kind of sad. I laugh about it because I actually used to believe this. I was raised in it. And I've come out of it. I've done a lot of studying on church history, early church fathers, hundreds of hours of reading all this stuff and finding out that nobody used to believe any of this. But it's very modern. It's only from the last 150 years. But what the worst thing that ever happened to perpetuate this belief system is Israel becoming a nation.
So it kind of fulfilled the projection.
It fulfilled that projection. And from there, they continually look for signs that the world's going to end based on what's going on in Israel. And because of that, there's also a blind belief that we have to support Israel no matter what in order to be blessed.
So let me ask you something. In that theory, that if we help speed it up, Christ will come more quickly, or is Christ going to come when he wants to come anyway?
So the true biblical belief, if you really study the Bible, it's that Jesus will come when nobody expects it. There's no signs to him coming at all. What people take out of it, Jesus prophesied the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. And a lot of people take that prophecy and attribute it to the end of the world. And so they feed a lot of stuff in there.
Him here. Let me see what he's got.
Oh, okay.
Hang on. Hello. Yeah, we're still on. I can put you on speaker and you can talk to everybody. I'm with Busy and Ace and all right, here we go. Let me see.
Oh boy, here we go.
I see if you guys can hear him. All right, go ahead.
I can't believe you guys are still talking.
We're talking late.
We were talking about you.
I just want to let you know, I'm trying to get the truck. I think we confirmed for Tuesday. We may have a problem. It's up to the guy, so I'll be working on all this weekend slide presentations for the truck. And listen, I don't know who's looking down upon us, but to have Donald Trump, Devin Nunes, now the SEC grabbing the Kramers, starting that game going is a godsend. And, all we need is management from GTII to either croak or get out, and we'll be okay there. And I don't want to be the one to bear bad news, but let's hope they take a left, as they say. Get the hell out of here. Make it nice and easy. And we'll bring the people in to clean it up and get it going again. That's all. There's nothing else to say. The Kramers never got a chance to convert. No one got a chance to convert all the shares into the company. We got to get the company to clean up their act, and we'll be okay there. Finger motion's a different beast. And again, my friends help fund the company to have all the money they need, and the company's just generating a revenue. And listen, when they go to black, whether it's this quarter or the next quarter, it's coming. And I'm not concerned. It's pretty sad that I invested in December 2018. It's May 2024, and I'm up like 48 cents. in my investment. The company's 1,000 times better, and I'm up 48 cents. Think about that. That's Wall Street. There's a video, William, of that lady Wagner.
Ann Wagner.
She's on Twitter. Take a look at it. She's spanking the SEC, telling them they need to,
Why do you think Ace just asked a question that we talked about a bit? Why do you think this Kramer complaint came now?
Because someone's looking down upon us. I don't know.
I mean, is it? Well, I'll let Ace.
I think that the SEC is on the pressure to actually now go after people. They've been stalling, dragging their feet. I think the pressure is coming down from the politicians now, and I think the naked short selling thing is just going to explode. Devin Nunes is just going to rip them up. Our people at buy-ins.net speak with them, 6 times a day. They're educated. The lawyers are educated. They're all educated on it now. And we got a guy from the Intel committee, the head of the Intel committee, that knows how to do investigations at the highest level. He's on our side. Maybe because of Ace is a good guy. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe Richard Hoffman is doing it. This is payback for somebody who's done a good deed. I don't know.
Don't forget that
where they all came from at the same time. I don't know.
Don't forget that Busy Branch is here too.
Yeah, Busy.
Who's that? Who's that?
I told you we need when William, when you get the money for the whistleblower award and you throw a party, make sure you hire security to keep Busy Brands out.
I'll try to keep him in.
I got a question for Ham. Ham, how do you feel to be vindicated by the Kramers?
I don't care. I don't listen.
I mean,
it doesn't mean anything to me.
It's a serious question because it's not only you, but Dirty Mayo also. God bless that guy. I mean, you guys were going hard on them for years, and now this came to fruition.
Well,
it must feel good.
Listen, this is pretty easy stuff. This is I've helped get a couple of criminals before, so it takes time. We just forced the issue. I think the truck had a lot to do with it, where we were making fun of it, and the SEC was looking at this truck. Everywhere we went, we kept the pressure up. Busy guys like you, Ace, everyone retweeting it. You can't be that embarrassed that there's a truck 13 times. Proof. You can whistleblow all you want, but if no one ever knows you're doing it, there's no proof of it. How do you? They could just toss it in the garbage pail, and that's why we came up with the truck idea. And you can't hide the proof there. We're right there. We have pictures of it. William's taking pictures of it. People don't even realize we were at CNBC. William was running through the lot being chased by the police. No one remembers that.
I do. That's when that day the driver drove me by. I thought you were with us, but I think you went off. Drove me by the Kramers building and the restaurant. That's my memory anyway. The Kramers. Do you know they're being represented by Gibson Dunn? Oh, sorry. The audio disappeared. Hang on one second. There you go. Do you know they're being represented by Gibson Dunn?
Who's that? The Kramers?
Yeah.
We knew that 3 years ago.
All right. Well, they are again. And can you talk about what you told me earlier, that first it's civil, then it's criminal? Or
I had a prosecutor that we know call up and says this looks like it's civil going to criminal. I mean, they made a point that this guy's a second-time offender, and he says there's a lot of wording in there that leads you to believe it's going to criminal, right after this. So, listen, these guys move slow. I went to the FBI. I went to the Secret Service. I speak with the FBI. A shareholder went to the FBI in Long Island, and he told them he had evidence that the Kramers had put the house under his dad's name, the older brother, whatever. I can't remember their names.
Leo.
I mean, so the FBI said they knew all about him. So, I mean, Gretchen Morgensen told me herself, you know, when they were loan sharks, that the feds want these guys away. I mean, it just takes time. I don't know, you know. Listen, the one guy said to me, I have a friend that went to prison a while ago, maybe 20 years ago, for some sort of security violation. And he said the government has all the time and all the money in the world to prosecute. He says that when they take their time, then when they get you, they put you away. And that's just what he said. He also said the Kramers won't last a week in jail. And my friend...
So do you think there's any chance they'll just get another slap on the wrist, or do you think it's...
No.
Okay. Yeah.
If they do get a slap on the wrist, that means they're ratting on everybody else. You got to remember, you got to go deeper into this.
So they'll end up hanging from a doorknob.
Well, listen, once everybody knows that they're testifying against them, you know, they got brokers, prime brokers. There's all kinds. There's a network of offshore accounts. There's wire fraud, intentions to higher income, high income offshore. Their network has got to be deep. Alpine has got to go to jail. Those guys are criminals, the whole bunch. They've been robbing people for years. Those guys tried to defraud the depository trust. I mean, that is the biggest corporation in the world. I mean, they're going after these guys, and they made a public spectacle of it. And GTII was the beneficiary of it. Can you believe it? No, I keep telling everybody, when you see all these companies or anybody who is that one company on Twitter, some M something, whatever, trading, I think it was 12 million to 20 million shares of stock. They never wrote the tickets on, or whatever, they mismarked them. They never tell you the stocks, no matter how small, how big. They never tell you the names.
Never.
If it's a pump and dump, you got the name. On the short side, they never give you the name, because that means that these guys manipulated your stock down and you lost money. So they never tell you the names. Imagine they say Goldman Sachs is fine for naked shorting, and they did it to NVIDIA, Peloton, and Beyond Meat. The people there will go crazy.
Well, these 325 companies, you don't think people got hurt in those companies? Why didn't they talk about that?
Right. I'm just saying that they need the shareholders of that company. I told you, the Kramers who are crying that they're angels here, get those 300 companies, get the officials out, and all they have to do is go look at the trading 2 weeks before when they spoke. When they found out they needed money, or when they met, the first time they met and they said the symbol, go look at the trading and see who shorted the stocks before. There's your criminals right there.
Yeah.
Every one of them have the same pattern, guaranteed. I mean, this is, again, what Citadel is doing is so much more sophisticated than what the Kramers and Lynn Partners are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are using technology, this, that, to hide their everything. The Kramers are doing nothing. They're using guys like Vertical Group. They got Rob Schaefer, that's the guy, Fancy Pants. They call him up and they say, hey, we got a debenture with these guys. We're going to sign it next week. Sell as much as you can. That's all they're saying. Well, call me back later. Tell me how much we sold. That's all they're saying. That's it. And they're selling it using the market maker exemption. No one's asking for delivery. And once the company signs the debenture, the company gets the money. They're thrilled because they're still in business. And their stock is probably down 30 or 40% already, going lower. And they just, once they sign it, they put out a press release that the company has the funds to continue operations, to keep working on their trials, whatever it may be, and just slowly grinds to 000. Go ask DBMM how it worked out for her. I'm sure she has all the data about the day he was recommended to the Kramers. If you just go back 10 days before, you'll see all the short sales right there. Check those sell tickets, see where the money goes, and the Kramers go to jail forever. A monkey could do this investigation. What Citadel's doing is much more sophisticated. They use options. They're using this. They're using every little trick they can. The Kramers don't know what I mean, how many times did I tell you they don't even have a computer? They use the plastic computer from Sears. I told you that a long time ago. They're just sitting there, not doing anything. It's amazing. It's like the Wolf of Wall Street in the beginning when he goes to that penny stock firm. They don't even have computers. That's the Kramers.
Wow. I never saw that movie.
Go look at it. DiCaprio goes to a place. He goes from, I think it was Smith Barney. He goes down to, he got laid off there because the market crashed. He winds up in a penny stock place. And the guys are just looking through the pink sheets and they're making markets in stocks, 10 cents to $1. You could buy it at $1, sell it at 10 cents. That's the market in the pink sheets. So he goes, if I sell 3,000 shares at $1, they go, you make 90%. So that's what he was selling. And that's what he did. And they had no computers. There's no computers. He would put people on hold. Let me see if I can get it at that market. Let me check my machine. He put them on hold. They have no machines. There was nothing. That's what the Kramers have. They have machines. They know a symbol. Call up Rob Schaefer. Call up this guy. Call up these other market makers. And they all start shorting the stock for them. They give everybody an order. And they leave. And at the end of the day, they call back and say, how much did you sell? That's it.
So Richard said earlier that I got to get it right. There's two different tracks. There's FINRA, but then there's the DTCC and NSCC. They are forcing Alpine out, or whatever the word is. It's not expelling, but they're shutting it down. As of last month, they got to stay. And he says it might be May 26th. I think that's what I remember. He thinks they'll get another stay. But my question is this. Have they moved the short position of GTII or DBMM out of Alpine, or is it still sitting there?
I think they've been moving it, and we've been saying it for a while. They're doing something, because why would you spend millions a month, right?
Right.
Why would they do millions a month just to keep what? The Titanic alive? Come on, give me a break.
Right.
Hey, listen, when you're gonna get caught, you keep trying. Richard could probably tell you about that. Why would you keep doing? You got to keep trying so they don't find you, right?
Do you have any feeling about what's going on with the hearings for DJT and will it help MMTLP?
I just told you to go watch the video of that woman Wagner on Twitter.
I will.
She's fantastic. And you know what? Everybody, I wish I had the time. I would go down there and walk around Monday with the naked short selling guy. Just change up the stories a little bit and go knock on everybody's door again and use the power of Devin Nunes to walk in everybody's office. It's a little different now that there's powerful people talking about it versus you, William, or Busy Brands or Ace, right? A little different, or Don Fizz, I forgot his name.
Yeah.
They don't care about us. They don't care about us, right? They care about Devin Nunes said it. Oh my God, it's got to be great if he's saying it, right? That's how they look at these things.
Right.
I can't believe today's only Wednesday. I thought it was Friday.
Hey, I got a question for you regarding GTII. I'm hearing that existing management seems to be looking for a way out. Have you heard something like that?
Yes. What do you want me to elaborate on it?
No shit.
The biggest shareholders in the game and that stock are doing everything to force them out. Again, who's going to get an 80-something-year-old man? The other board member's 87, and I forget the lady, Kathy, how old she is. I mean, she's been described to me from the Trento guys as a soccer mom. I mean, these people William says it best, they've aged out, meaning they're it's past their time. It happens to everybody, okay? It's not just them, but they have to give up. They're not running I don't know what they're running. They're just sitting there. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. And they wake up every day, and their interest is waking up. That's it. They have no other interest in helping us. They just, they're just old people that are past their time. They have no vision. They're lazy. The guys from Trento did a lot of running around, and they don't read the reports that they bring to. They're just not doing anything. And you know what? We need them to be gone, and they need to retire a lot of shares. And I wouldn't be surprised if the company. I wouldn't be surprised with the Kramer news that GTI does something to enhance the value, like returning shares that they've given themselves. They've given themselves too many shares. Why would we do that now? Let's backpedal on that, and this will be a more positive event for us. So because now, I think they were looking at it saying, "Oh, the SEC is never going to act on this," and guess what? They did. Hey, listen, fighting the crooks takes a long time, right? It takes years.
Best years of my life.
I mean, just look at Richard Hoffman. He's been going back and forth with management. It's taken 3 months already.
We had a great call with him today. I'm busy, and Ace Arca was going to come on. But Richard really, he was really good on a lot of subjects.
Listen, William, you can't believe, Busy Brands, I don't know where he fell out of the sky, but the guy taught himself. He made himself the middleman to a lot of key players here. I mean, it's just amazing.
He learned it in the Marines.
All right, that's where he learned it. Wherever he learned it, I don't care where he learned it.
I mean, who would you want to be on a battlefield with, Busy Brands or David Reichman?
Or Steve Rosenberg? I told you. I told you if he was in my platoon, that West Point guy, every day I would try to take our troops and run away from him.
I've never met him.
Nah, they're great. Listen, they're good people. There's people that have invested years, not weeks, years, 10, 15 years in CVM.
Yeah.
It's got squeezed once or twice, but the CEO has destroyed shareholders for years with the promise of a cancer drug. And, every time it gets close, he raises money. Today, they came out with some news on, I don't know what the actual news was from the FDA, but I heard it was positive. The stock went to 3.25, a 2, whatever it was, 2 something, and it closed at $1.50, I think.
Well, we were discussing that earlier about Reichman, and I guess at some point CEOs just start, the Harvard study. I didn't go to. Well, anyway, we all know it. You have to align the interests. You have to align the interests of shareholders with management, with the board, with employees. Then you have a successful operation. But at some point, the CEOs just realize they need to look out for themselves, and maybe that's what he does.
I'm looking at the news on
you got to touch,
for a second. CVM receives FDA go-ahead for its confirmatory study on multi-kind and treatment of head and neck cancer. So the FDA gave them the go-ahead. The stock went to $2.35 and closed at $1.39.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you even bother at this point?
Any news that comes out, they take advantage. They just suck investors' money out because they deserve it, not the company, not the investor.
The reason they attack it on days like that,
they don't want momentum.
They don't want momentum, number one, but they got the opportunity because there's plenty of volume coming in because people want.
Out.
I told you, my friend, I never even heard of people with head and neck cancer. Till my good friend happened, the gentleman you met in Atlantic City. He had head and neck cancer, and he survived. And it was brutal. So, after I heard about it, I'm like, okay, that's what these guys have been working on. And no one cares. Look what they just did to the stock. Head and neck cancer. If you had head and neck cancer and it was your dad or your mother, you would be cheering this company on. Oh my God.
Well, I remember that, but Busy was talking, but I remember a time when these stocks all be over 100. Didn't matter.
Oh,
But
gosh,
anyway,
you're going crazy.
talk to Busy Brands had something to say.
No, I just wanted to agree with William and Ham. Uh, I always put an example that some of these CEOs, not only are they out of touch, with the trends and technology. Um, for example, look at Blockbuster Video. If they had a good savvy CEO when Netflix was making a move into the TV streaming, they could have picked up or done something similar. But he was out of touch. Blockbuster went under. Right, there's no longer brick and mortar Blockbuster Videos everywhere. So going back to GTI, you actually need a young, savvy a CEO for GTI that could stay with the trends. We're in a new era with social media. I just for Ham, I always spoke to you about this. Why the hell did that man never join a space call and join his shareholders, right? When there was momentum. And what did you say, man? This guy looks like he's going to flip over and die because he was so old. So it's time to go. Needs to be a savvy CEO in there that's up with the trends, technology, and needs to join shareholders to fight this battle. And that's all I wanted to say.
Listen, again, I'm at the age where I got to go soon. Come on, it just happens.
Just wash your hands afterward.
The clock is, the sands of time have run out, and this guy needs to go. He's got people's lives and their money on the table, and doing nothing is just not going to cut it anymore. People say, people yelling, "No, where is this guy?" Where's your business? You got to have a business at some point, right?
Exactly. I would give him credit for 2 good years. He really did give it a college try. But
yeah, no, listen, he did everything. He tried everything: crypto coins, a Picasso, dividends. Just look at the dividends. The company gave everyone a 10% dividend or something, but I forgot what it was. And the brokerage firms are telling people you're never going to get it, and they're like, "Why? What's the answer?" It's just they don't have an answer because they don't have it.
Do you think, in retrospect, the Kramers obviously got in trouble with the short position because Alpine took it over, it looks like? But do you think the other 325 companies that he was killing were giving profits to Alpine that made them look the other way on covering GTII?
They were giving profits to who?
Kramer was obviously selling counterfeit shares in 325 other companies. He probably did it through Alpine, or his clients did. So they didn't want to destroy him or buy in GTII.
No, listen,
how does it work?
100% Alpine is their partner.
Right.
What do you think they're going to sit there and say? Hey, we know you guys are stealing, and we're going to let you steal, and you're going to pay us a penny a share. We're going to be happy with that. Or they're going to say to them, hey, this is John Hurry. Unless you give me 50% of your profits, you got to go someplace else. And what do you think the Kramers are going to say? Well, we can't go anywhere else. I'll give you 40. I want 50. They have no choice.
Right.
They have no choice. They can't do anything. All Alpine has to say is, I know you're doing dirty business. You got to pay us. You got to pay the toll. And that's the way it goes. And the Kramers are sitting there saying, okay, these guys are going to protect us. We got to give them the money. It's better than nothing, right?
Right.
So that's what happened. No one else is taking their business. Kidder Peabody wasn't going to take their business. Smith Pawnee, Lehman's, nobody would take their business. Do you think the Kramers are going to walk into a firm, let's say Kidder Peabody, hey, can you clear these trades? We're just looting everybody. Can we pay you a penny a share? Sure, we'll take your business and blow up our whole company over you. Get out of here. No one will do it.
It's incredible. It's so many shares.
He had billions of shares.
So many shares.
It's not like you have to look too far. There's billions of them.
Wow. JD Vance, Busy Brands. JD Vance is helping us, the short killers. He signed a joint letter with Senator Crapo. So I guess Trump, J.D. Vance is the ticket. I didn't know. I'd never heard of J.D. Vance, really.
He's the guy with the eye patch, isn't he?
No, that's what's his face in Houston.
Oh, okay,
That dude's terrible.
I can't remember all their names, but again, all you have to know is Devin Nunes is probably making calls to everybody he can in D.C. We know Jim Jordan is the guy that's going to head the committee to go after the shorts. That's a fact. We know that already. So when they announce it, when they do it, it's coming. I was told this week. So that's, maybe they had to move it back. I don't know. There's so much shit going on. How do we get it to the head of the pile? Listen, Trump has to close this out before he's the president. That's just the fact. He can't become the president and say, "Hey, can you stop the stealing in my stock and screw everybody else?" He can't do that. So it has to happen now.
Yeah.
And who does it help? It helps us. How the hell did this happen? It's remarkable. I've been doing it 24 years.
You keep saying that. When does it roll over to 25?
I guess we're there. I don't know. In 17 more days into my 25th year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I try not to think about it anymore because,
25 years is a long time. I mean,
I thank everybody here, but I told you, my dad told me, don't let anybody steal your money. And I vowed that I would get them back. Now, it wasn't the criminal that attacked me. It just happens that we bumped into the Kramers, and now I'm bumping into Lynn Partners and, other creeps in the way. The people that attacked Pat Byrne in Overstock, we helped him there with, Mark Cahotes had to pay $5 million to stay out of jail. Charlie Gasparino's a scumbag. Herb Greenberg's a scumbag. Kramers a scumbag on TV. I mean, you could just see all the players that defend and protect the industry versus the individual. I'm not the industry, so I don't give a shit about Stevie Cohen or any of those people. I don't care. Stevie Cohen's made billions of dollars, paid $2 billion, and he's richer than ever now. How's that happen?
Concentrated wealth.
And that's what the problem was. Wall Street, once the pools of money started to band together, everybody was dead.
Yeah.
You can't have 10 people with all the money. You can't trade against these guys.
And everybody wants that trading volume. I mean, it just changed everything. They have trillions under management. Amazing.
There's too much money on one side.
Yeah.
Well, I want to apologize to him. I really do.
Listen, you better apologize before
I make fun of your bald head. 2 years fighting this battle.
Hey, listen.
I'm catching up to you.
Someone told me that there's a marker on the back of my head that Busy was here. I can't see the back of my head.
Well, I'm catching up to you. 2 years fighting this battle. I understand what you've been through. So
I guess William and I are just blessed.
Well, you have more,
You got a few years on me though, William.
Driveway right there.
Listen, guys, I was walking down the street. I bumped into William. I asked him what the capital of Bolivia was. He answered correctly. And I says, "Hey, I got a job for you. You won't get paid." And he jumped on board. And that's how we found William.
That's a beautiful love story.
No, that's special.
He fell for it, and now he's on board. That's it.
I just want to know how
we
long.
We don't get people to help us. We get a trick him into doing it.
How long did it take Michelangelo to paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling? I don't know. I don't have access to any way of looking it up, but I have a feeling he did it in under 24 years.
I can't find. It takes me 24 years to find one crook.
Hey, Ham, now that we're breaking balls, can I tell a funny story about William? I have to, William. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're going to. Oh, God. All right.
I'm on the phone with William, and, Anna convinced him to go join a meeting. All of a sudden, William didn't know that he was going to an AA meeting, but it was a gay AA meeting.
Oh God.
He called me nervous and scared.
That was. I mean, it's no secret to anybody. I haven't had a drink in almost 5 years. I went to New York with Ham and all that. That was that I can see the temptation. But yeah, Anna said, you're too isolated. Go to a meeting. So I went, and I'm near this DuPont Circle area which is an area where anyway, not that there's anything wrong with that. So I went in that meeting. Oh my God. But it was warm, but it was for men who prefer the company of men.
Listen,
of course it was warm. You were new.
My AA story is a better one. I was in Santa Barbara. My friend hooked me up with this girl. She picked me up in a brand new BMW. She was taking me out. I said, "Oh, this is great." And we went out to dinner, and I'm knocking down drinks. I'm with a beautiful girl. We're running around Santa Barbara. And she's eating dinner, drinking a cup of coffee. And I'm like, I don't know what. She didn't want to drink, so I'm saying, screw this, I'm drinking. We have dinner. It was great. She goes, "Listen, I got to stop. Can you come with me?" I said, "Oh, shit, yeah, I'll go wherever you want me to go." She took me to an AA meeting, and I was drunk. I went into the meeting drunk. And I asked her, I'm like, "Where are we going? Is there a bar?" I didn't know where I was going. And I sat there, and I had to wait because she had the car. I didn't know where I was. And she was so pretty, I figured I might as well wait it out. I gave it a shot. And finally, she was so nutty, I said, "Get me out of here." I took a cab home and left. That was the end of that. So that was my AA meeting. I went to it drunk.
Well, you don't drink anyway. Well,
when I was younger, I did. Yeah.
With Busy, he does.
Yeah, Busy, I do. The best is with Busy when he had to help that lady out of the bar, out of the casino, threw her on a spike, and went up her ass, left her in the street. That was the best story of all time.
Oh, please don't mention it. Don't mention any names. Don't mention any names.
I meet the guy. I meet Busy in 3 hours. We're drunk. He's carrying a woman to a car.
Don't look. What stays in Alexandria stays there.
No, we don't want to mention the name, but it was pretty funny because
it was funny.
Ham calls me on the cell phone. He goes, "What happened?" And I'm over here telling him the story, and then he just starts cracking up so hard. It's already 4 a.m. or 5 a.m, whatever time it was. So then I'm walking up the stairs again, and he calls me back with somebody on the phone too. I don't know who the hell you were calling on three-way, but to tell him the story because Ham couldn't stop laughing. But we don't want to mention who that was. But you guys will offline, we can tell you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
Usually I'd feel left out, but after listening to you guys, I don't think I ever want to hang out with AA meetings. It's fun.
Oh, God, Ace. I mean, gee whiz.
Ace, I don't think so. We were just warming up.
But Ace, the whole thing about AA anyway, you've already achieved in all the meetings you've led in your lifetime. So I don't think you have anything to learn.
All right, guys, listen, I'm going to bed. I can't believe it's only tomorrow's Thursday. I thought it was Friday. I really thought it was Friday. Anyway, listen, have a good night. We'll see you on the battlefield.
Good night, Em.
Thank you.
All right, so Ace, you can finish what you were saying, or we can talk about something else. But
oh my gosh, I don't even remember where we were.
Anyway, it just intrigues me that human beings think they can speed up.
Oh yeah.
God's plan. How can we speed it up? It's going to come when it comes.
It comes when it comes. There's the belief many people have is there's 2 things they believe they can do. One is try to make sure every single person in the world's heard about Jesus. And that's number one. That's why there's a big missionary push in a lot of, not that anything wrong with missionaries, but big push in some areas just to get the word out. And then the other one is hope the world basically goes to hell. And if it goes terribly and gets so bad, then we have to get rescued. I don't believe in either of those things, but those are very popular views. So it's pretty crazy.
Doesn't quite make sense. And Anyway, we can talk.
Anyways, yeah, that's funny. Funny to go to that after him.
I enjoy talking about it. I'm just not sure the whole audience.
I do too. No, I think my audience enjoys it. They know I go on tangents with this stuff all the time. So I have my focuses and then my tangents. Not that you know anything about.
I mean,
tangents,
they're the. Well, I try not to. I try to make sure what I talk about is I'm not copying anybody. But anyway, I'm glad to listen to all that. It's the basic questions of life. Why are we here? And
100%. I agree.
I'm not sure that God is so sensitive to how people believe in him. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I think C.S. Lewis said it best. I think he said that when you get to heaven, you'll be surprised by a lot of the people who are there and surprised by a lot of people who aren't.
I've listened to a couple of his books. I read his books, the Screw Tape Letters,
yeah,
and Mere Christianity, and I read all the Narnia books too when I was young. So he's an now that I'm older, he just looks like a normal guy.
It is weird how it changes as you get older. I know.
Oh my gosh, I'm not saying. Yami just. Oh my gosh, I'm not saying the name. Yeah, but it's interesting to me why we have to go to war over that particular obsession of born again Christians. I'm not disrespectful. I'm Catholic, but I don't know what I'm talking about. But we never thought that way. I was never brought up thinking that. I'm not even sure that we focus all that much on the return of Christ as I'm talking to you.
Yeah, it's not. It's more of a modern thing. And what's interesting is it really sped up because in the 1960s there was a big push on this stuff. And you want to know what's funny? One of the things that actually
wasn't that what's it called? The Second Vatican?
I think it was Vatican II.
And then when they changed the Mass.
And I also, in the 60s, this is The Omen came out, which really started the whole Antichrist craze. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. It's kind of fascinating when you look into the history of a lot of these beliefs that are more traditional versus what I would say biblical. But it's it's interesting. And I would say this. I will say being in the church my whole life and hearing a lot of this stuff.
Which church was it?
Well, I grew up Episcopalian. My father was an Episcopal priest. And then I moved on to more of a non-denominational church, and then spent time in charismatic, and now I'm just kind of, I don't put a label on the denomination I go to. It's just a church. But what I was going to say is the interesting thing is in knowing all this, and even knowing the super pro-Israel people who they're not for war, they don't support wanting to go to war, but what they do is that if Israel gets attacked or if Israel makes decisions and stuff, they have a belief that Israel is always in the right, and they kind of overlook a lot of the other things. And so that's what I've noticed. So it's not that they're championing it so much or wanting war, but it's that they feel like if Israel decides they have to go to war, they're going to support it. That's kind of how they think about it.
That happened. I have an Irish in my background. I think that happened with the IRA and with the Irish in America. Just blind support for the IRA, without realizing the terrorism that the IRA was causing in London and elsewhere. I don't know enough about it, so I don't want to cause any controversy, but you can't just send things blindly because you remember Ireland fondly on St. Patrick's Day. You can't, you know. But anyway, it's interesting to me because I guess the Anglican Church you grew up, that must be similar to Catholic, but
very
I just
similar.
don't remember the focus always talking about Jesus Christ. I mean, obviously, the Catholic faith is about Christ, but we didn't. I mean, I don't know for sure, but we didn't talk all the time. We would talk about God, still do, and the Lord, but it's just different. It's just different. And then I'm sure in history it's different, but I didn't ever notice that we focused a whole lot on, you know, needing to have Christ come back to Israel or whatever it's about.
It's historically not, and the Catholic Church is one of the churches that, because it has such a longer history than most other churches, that the Catholic Church is one of those that avoided getting into that as much as others, because of just the history of the Catholic Church already has such a strong history of beliefs they've carried on. And, you know, obviously the Catholic Church has its own messes, but that has not really been one of them. It more got into, especially the non-denominational church structure, but you see it a little bit here and there. It's always creeping around. It's interesting, but I've seen so much damage done from it, because it really encourages you to not plan for the future, not hope for the future, not try to make a difference positively in the world in a long-term kind of planning way, that I feel like it's really taking a lot of people out of influence where they could have actually really been making big differences. And we're talking millions and millions of people, because if you just believe that the world's always going to get worse, and it's actually a good thing when things are bad, and it's, you know, and all we're looking forward to is Jesus coming back, then you don't start planning for the future. You don't make as wise decisions. You don't invest as much in your community. You just naturally, even if you do those things a little bit, you just naturally don't see as much point in it. So I've seen a lot of damage done to that.
There's a guy that speaks about God. I'm trying to. He's got a very simple name. He's a PhD. He's a scientist. He's an astrophysicist. And oh God, I have a Biden brain. But he points out how just simply unique this planet is.
Oh yeah.
And I always worry, if we destroy it, there's no place to go.
No, there's not. The good news is in that frame, I personally don't think we can destroy the world. I think we could try. I think there's a lot of world worship, but I am a Bible believing Christian, and in the Bible it says that the earth will basically last forever. I do believe
we can destroy it for our ability to live on it.
I do. I know we could potentially do that. I also just don't think we ever will. I think most of that's used to just raise money, honestly, for Democrats.
Are you talking about climate change? I'm not talking about.
Yeah,
I'm more worried. I'm worried about climate change, but I also see that climate is also changed by other forces. I think it's a stretch to not recognize that humanity is taking a huge experiment, putting the carbon back in the atmosphere that took eons to bury. But there's other things that change and ebb and flow.
Sure.
But the one I worry about a lot, and I've asked people like you, and I have a friend who's it's not Christian Scientist, it's the other one, Seventh-day Adventist. No,
Seventh-day Adventist.
No, there's another one that they believe Christ, that God, when we die, God's coming back to make paradise here on earth.
When we die? I don't know. I haven't heard that.
No, after we die. Oh God, it's anyway. I ask a lot of people, and but it's the three or four complete meltdowns of extremely large.
The nuclear reactors?
Yeah, the reactors of Fukushima Daiichi, they are destroying.
I agree with you. Oh, I definitely agree. We destroy areas, and we can say if there was ever mass nuclear war, it would destroy livable area of most of the world. That I don't think that's debatable. I personally I do believe God intervenes still in ways, and is great interest in protecting his people as much as he can. You know, our own choices sometimes prevent him from being able to do that, because I do believe God also allows free will. But
well, I think it's a weird thing. I think sometimes somebody comes along that's a leader or genius or has an idea, and that might be God. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it can be influenced by God for sure.
There's a guy named James Lovelock who came up with the idea of Gaia, the idea that the planet is a living organism. You don't have to believe that, but you can believe that it behaves like one. So
sure,
that it protects itself.
Yes.
It when in the summer, the northern hemisphere is expelling oxygen. In the winter, it's like it's breathing. But his point was that in fact we do want large areas of the earth to not be livable by human beings, so that nature can continue to work. So he wasn't as concerned by like a Chernobyl or something like that.
Yeah, and I could see his point. I think I'd be kind of in between you guys. I think it's a concern, but my personal belief is, if you study history, there's extreme instances of horrific things that have happened, whether it's the Black Plague, World War II, Civil War. I mean, where so many people die, and it's awful. But the trend of history, and since the time of Jesus's death, which I believe is when the Holy Spirit came into the world, since the trend of history since 2,000 years ago is that despite these awful periods of time, the world continues to trend to better. And by better, I mean more people are fed, more people have access to water, more people have access to air conditioning technology, more comfort, less war. There's less people dying today because of natural disasters than any point in history, less people dying from war than any time in history. So despite what we see in the news and everything, the overall statistics support that the trend of history is still improving despite what we're going through. And that just, I don't believe that'll ever stop personally. I think there'll be.
That's nice. I like to hear that. I'm also, I mean, two things. There's a book out there that I haven't found, and I forgot the title, but it's the idea that we are not replacing our population because of societal trends, so that particularly in the Western world, women aren't having children, and if they do, it's later, and it's not particularly many, so that a lot of the countries in the world are going to have population collapses.
Yes.
But, now, I don't know if that's, I'd like to read the book.
Japan is on the verge and within 20 years, I think.
Well, and I sometimes wonder if it has to do with the radiation. The guy I was thinking of was Hugh Ross.
Okay.
But the other thing you brought up that I've been, that has been something I've been thinking a lot about, I don't know why, but is the Holy Spirit. That's a very powerful idea, and I don't know what to say. The thing that stands out is you're not to mock the Holy Spirit. You're not to make fun of it, of him, or but also that the Holy Spirit does come in your life, but maybe in the planet. It's nice to hear that. The other idea I was struck by the other night was that it's possible that a lot of our answers in our individual lives, but in our greater lives, in the shared life, are easier than we think. That God does want to give us we don't have to solve the problems, maybe he can, but also the answers are there. The bounty, or whatever, the joy, the gifts are there, but that by sinning, and I'm not a Bible thumper, but that by sinning and doing other things, we interfere with the flow of what's there for us. I don't know.
No, I would almost 100% agree with what you just said. And if the way I've come to think about sin and the Holy Spirit, everything, is that sin is what prevents us from living within the full blessings of God. And it's not, I don't look at God, and I don't believe the Bible shows that God is somebody looking to strike down upon people, be angry at people because they're messing up. That is not, after Jesus, it's pretty clear that you're walking in a different season than what they were doing in the Old Testament. So in sin, sin is falling short. That's what the Bible says it is. So it's anything that's outside of what God's best is for you. So by living in sin, you're actually just living in what's already a curse, basically. And that's being out.
It's funny. I just thought,
God.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're okay. It's just it's living absent of God's ability to intervene in your life.
There you go.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so,
and that's that's another thing with being Catholic, at least what my experience of it is, we don't spend a lot of, at least wasn't in my background, spending a lot of time talking about the enemy and and all that I see, and I don't do it, but maybe that's how it's an Amy Winehouse lyric, I cheated myself like I knew I would. Maybe we cheat ourselves by those doubts and that. And as I get older, sinning, it's not so much that you're getting away with anything, or that maybe you are having fun in the moment, but in the long run, the loss is yours, not. And I think God looks on it compassionately rather than to punish you.
Yes. The Bible says the wages of sin are death, which means basically you're earning that. The longer you go, it starts building up, and if you notice, like you said, people who might live completely in that for a long time, or continue doing that tends to also line up with a lot of other things, sicknesses, depressions, not all the time, but a lot of the time. And you can almost see the deterioration in people's lives. Maybe it's loss of relationships, whatever, which is all outside of God's best for you. And again, to quote C.S. Lewis, he said that the gates of hell are closed from the inside. In other words, it's keeping God out from your life versus God sending you to hell. And that's how I tend to look at it. I do believe it's biblical until what's called in the Bible the final judgment, which is the final return of Jesus, which we already talked about. That's where there finally will be kind of a separation. But until that time, we're living in this period where basically we can get as much of God as we want or as little. And he's not picking, choosing any of that. He's hope. In Peter, it says that God's infinitely patient, not wanting anyone to perish. In other words, he doesn't want anybody to die, go to hell, live a terrible life. And he's waiting patiently and hoping that everybody kind of wakes up, so to speak.
Yeah, that thing you all talk about, maybe my church does. My dad almost became a priest, and when I was with him, we always went to mass, but my mother grew up Catholic but then rejected it. So I have I have strengths and gaps in my knowledge. But the one thing that scares the heck out of me when I hear it from preachers is that you could go to heaven or you could die. And I guess if you believe in Christ, I don't think God requires everybody to believe in him the way I do or the way others do.
Yeah.
But anyway, when you get there, he tells you, I never knew you. That scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I never knew you.
And I think it should. I think that's a healthy fear, because we, and that's kind of what it'll be like. It won't be like, oh, I cast thee out. It's more of like, oh, I didn't know you. And that I think that's a healthy fear to have.
That's horrible.
And I agree with you that I think God reveals himself to people the way he wants to reveal himself, and it's going to look different, especially culture to culture. Not 100%. I do think you could very clearly be like, there's certain beliefs to be espoused with what you'd be like, well, I don't see any God in that at all. There's some, and I think we'll just say extreme, terrible things. But other than that, I agree with you. And Jesus said very clearly, you cannot judge somebody's heart. In other words, you can't look at somebody and say,
I can't judge my own heart.
Yeah. Well, you can't look at somebody and say they're not going to heaven. It's very biblical to judge works. It's very biblical to judge mindsets or belief systems, but it's never, Christ specifically prohibits judging hearts and whether or not that person's right with God.
That's that whole debate of faith versus works. And I don't know the answer, but I do know that I think it's in the Bible. I think it's a parable, but the Lord, as we say, said, even now you can turn to me. You can turn to me even now. And I think, I don't know enough about it. Nobody.
Yeah, he says that to the thief on the cross that's dying right next to him, and he says, today you'll join me in paradise. And that's basically the idea that guy, even he was being crucified for being a thief, in his last moment he looked to Jesus, and Jesus took him with him.
Yeah,
and Paul says that works, you can't, basically works are a non-starter. Works can't get you to heaven. He's very clear about that in Galatians. But he also says
that
was Paul
if you really an apostle.
Oh, I believe 100% he was, but yeah.
All right, go on.
But he also said, and Jesus, I think his teachings would go along with that, pretty obviously. But the one thing he also says though is that if you have faith, you will have works. In other words, the works will always accompany faith. So it's not the works that will save you, but the faith saves you. But faith without works is dead, he says. So in other words, if you don't have the works, so they do go together, but you can't do the works on their own. In other words, if you just want to try, and that's where Jesus says, I never knew you. That's where that parable comes from, because he says, many will come to me saying, we cast out demons in your name. We did all this, basically saying like we were basically Christians. And I'll say, I never knew you, because they went out and did everything completely apart from relationship. And he wants that more than he wants the works, because the works will just naturally follow relationship. And that's very much what the biblical I would say the biblical truth is,
It sounds like you've thought about it, but if we were transplanted back in Roman times, I think we'd be horrified about how human beings were treated and how human life was treated.
Oh, it was way worse back then.
And the person that changed it most of all was Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Of course it was Christ, but it was Paul.
Well, Paul spread it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the apostle to the Gentiles. They sent him out. He wanted to be with the Jews at first. He went back to the disciples, actually, after spending 14 years in the wilderness, just hanging out with God. He went back to the disciples and they said, "Oh, you're meant to go to the Gentiles." And so, yeah, he started that. But I will say you're 100% right. And one of the things that bothers me a lot, I hear this a lot, is somebody saying like, "Oh, it's the worst it's ever been. The world's getting worse." I'm like, do you have any idea what history was like? Because there's a good argument to be made that actually the darkest time in history in regards to human life was right when Jesus came. And when you go to the disregard for human life, the rampant just hedonism that was in almost all the cultures. It was even in the Jewish culture. It was pretty disgusting. Yes, it was very bad.
I mean, Christ was Jewish, and
he was, yes.
And I don't know if it's in the Anglican Mass, but when we, the one time a year, when is it when we speak out? I guess it's Easter time. We speak out. We're part of the Jews when we're speaking out. Kill him. Because it was us.
It was us, yeah.
I don't see the distinction
that
history tries to make. But
well, I have a big problem when anybody says that it's the Jews who killed Jesus and they try to use it as some anti-Semitic thing.
I don't see that.
That's not. They're missing the entire point. Because the entire point was that would have been we did it. Yeah. Any culture would have done that had he shown up. The Jews were unique in the fact that before Jesus came in the Old Testament, they were the only ones who had access to God, who God chose to preserve his works, his ways, his relationship with man.
I used to come home, I guess probably when I was drinking, but I would turn on back when you had CDs, you had albums.
Yeah.
And I would have a fire lit. I miss all that, but I would turn on this Mick Jagger album and play it. I had good speakers, but he had this one song. He said, Mick Jagger of all people, have you ever faced the hour? No, have you ever faced the hour when everything seemed lost? Have you ever faced the pain he felt upon the cross? Have you ever faced the hour when everything was lost? And
Mick Jagger said that?
Mick Jagger, I'll send it to you.
Wow.
Mick Jagger. And that simple thing, to absorb all the sin and all the pain, that's the one thing that I can't and then I watched you probably saw it, Mel Gibson's movie, and it was the first time I saw the pain Mary went through. And
for sure, yeah.
I mean, it's a powerful story.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the fact what I believe, what the Bible says, and what I believe, even though it's supernatural to make it happen, is that Jesus was fully man and fully God. And the way, and so he felt all of our pain, and it says in the Bible he felt all of our pain. He also faced every temptation we face. The only difference is he never gave in.
My dad yelled at me, "You're not a theologian." But I guess the whole point was he came down to be a man.
Yes, it says he made himself
I guess
poor.
While he was here, he might have been a man, but yeah. I don't know.
Well, what he was is what Jesus came down was to be a man who walked fully with the Holy Spirit his entire
So
life,
answer me this.
lived without sin, and then he could die as a perfect sacrifice. But yeah.
If he's God, he was God, why did he pray to God?
Well, the Bible talks about the Trinity. So God's 1 and 3, 3 and 1. And that goes all the way back to even in Genesis when it says, let us make man in our image. It doesn't say, let me make man in my image. And so it's plural from the beginning. And the word Elohim, which is Hebrew, is plural. And so God is always 1 and 3, 3 and 1. And it's one of the great mysteries. How are they all one and also separate? And yeah, so Jesus is fully God, fully man. The Holy Spirit is fully God, fully Spirit. And God the Father is the Father over all, the Creator, everything. And they all work together. They all live in perfect harmony. And yet they're all one at the same time. And it's one of the things.
Do you know that Muhammad would watch people go by and he could tell that they were separate from God and he would cry?
Yeah, I'd never heard that. No. Yeah.
And I probably do it very little justice, but that's true. It's a different way of looking at it. I mean, he was the prophet. They think Christ was a prophet.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I just know with going back to your question, like why did Jesus pray to God? Well, it goes back to also him being fully man and fully God, because what I believe is the Bible is that they I believe that Jesus came to earth fully in the spirit God, but in flesh man. And so what he did is he lived life as a man fully dependent on God to show us what was possible for man before sin, before Adam, so that we could see. Why else would Jesus, if he only needed to be a sacrifice ever, he could have been killed as a baby and still done the same thing. So why did he need 33 years on earth, including 3.5 years of ministry? To me, is to show what's possible to live as a man fully dependent on God.
Why do we only know about 3.5 years?
Well, that's all the Bible records. From his birth until he's 2 years old when they flee to Egypt, we only get one other thing between that time and his ministry when he's 30, and that's when he's 12 years old and goes into the temple and is teaching the Pharisees as if he's, a greater teacher than they are. And
was it C.S. Lewis that said it? Somebody said it. There's not a single thing he ever said that was a lie or was wrong. Mm-hmm. Christopher Hitchens, who's a great atheist, wrote a book, I'd like to get it, where he just synthesized only what Jesus said and nothing else. I'd like to read it.
What's his face? Thomas Jefferson didn't like the supernatural part of the Bible, so he ripped it all out and just left the teachings of Jesus and stuff. So that's been a thing before. C.S. Lewis made a great quote once where he said that what's interesting about Jesus is you can't consider him just a great teacher. He's either God or insane, and those are the only options because of the way he taught and the following behind him.
Insane would be inconsistent. He was always consistent.
Yeah, well, that's the point. Is the point is that there's, if you study him and also look at the fact that the Gospels, 4 different men recorded so much. Josephus, who is a Jewish historian commissioned by Rome to record Jewish history, recorded Jesus and a lot of the stuff. So Jesus is more historically validated than much of our history we consider to be 100% accurate from the ancient days and stuff, and yet we have less recallings of them than Jesus and his ministry and everything. So it's a fascinating subject.
Well, it's 2,000 years or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The flood, I guess, was 5,000 or so more, but I think there was civilizations prior to that we don't remember at all.
Oh, sure. I agree with you 100%.
And we destroyed the Catholic Church. We go to Mexico. We burned all the papers there.
Yeah.
Apparently, in Egypt, there used to be a lot of paper of ancient history all destroyed. So we, as Graham Hancock says, we're a civilization with amnesia.
I would agree with that.
But I like what you said. I like the idea that Christ came to. I used to tell my sister, I feel like Christ came to tell us that it's going to be okay. Everything's okay. It makes the world less smiting and smoting.
There is some definitely truth to that.
Smiting and smoting going on now.
There is definitely, I would say, some truth to that. In fact, I think I would just add that Jesus came to say that it's going to be okay if you trust us, if you trust me, because he also did give warnings about certain things and certain ways of living and especially, what he warned almost, he talked about money and religion almost more than anything else. And not that money is evil, but that Jesus taught on wealth a lot, and he also taught on the dangers of greed. And then also on top of that, Jesus condemned no one harsher than the Pharisees, who were the religious leaders of the day. And it's because they were so wrapped up in religion that even the Christ, the Messiah they'd been waiting for their entire lives, they'd studied everything for, waiting for, and he was finally in front of them and they couldn't recognize him.
Well, I think the battle we're in with these short sellers and then the bashers and all of that, it feels a lot like battling the doubts and the on the face of it, if everything you're saying is correct, and I'm not saying you're not, I'm just putting it as a I'm always an argument, not saying
I'm always growing myself.
But if the deal is believe in me and all this good, and it's that easy, why are these doubts? Why in our brains do we doubt it, shun away, fear, do things that are opposite it? This is the behavior of these fudsters and how we trade our accounts. Now, the only thing that's different is I no longer see, and I didn't realize how bad it was, that the markets they aren't real anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of how I learned to trade and how you needed to be, there were self-correcting mechanisms there. They're all gone. But still, I feel that it's an evilness that's attacking. And anyway, I don't know why I brought that up. Because I don't think God cares about.
I would disagree, because I do think God cares about justice on earth for people, for good people. And I think that's a trend in history. In fact, in Romans 14, it says that God basically puts the I can't remember the exact, he calls it the sword bearer, but it's in context of government. And he says he puts the sword bearer, he bears the sword in order to basically bring justice. In other words, it's God's idea to put people in place to bring justice for other people. And so I think God's actually cares very much about justice. And so when people are stolen from, it breaks his heart. When people are obviously abused.
Forgive.
Oh yeah, but forgive doesn't mean not seek justice. Forgiveness means release them from revenge, release them from the need for hoping they go to hell, release them from a judgment. But one of the best ways I learned is that you can forgive somebody, but it doesn't mean you have to trust them.
Well, there you go. I think that's right. And you don't, it's like that Jack Nicholson movie, As Good as It Gets. We don't do crazy here. We're all full up. But for me, that's exactly right. If it's crazy or whatever, I don't have to trust it. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's weird. I don't think it's a human thing. We gotta pay. They gotta pay. I want justice. All that. But I think you gotta forgive it and let it go. It's a hard thing to do. I've spent the last 3 or 4 years pretty pissed off.
I would say, William, if you really believe that, you wouldn't be doing these videos every day fighting for this. You do believe in justice, and I think that's a God-given thing that's in your heart. And it's not. There's a difference between justice and revenge. Justice is wanting to see what's right. Revenge is desiring to see punishment and pain inflicted because of the pain you felt. There is a difference. And so, what's right in this case? Well, these people, maybe if they broke the law once and they were repentant of it, then justice would be slapping them on the wrist, having them pay a fine so they make sure they're right with everybody they hurt, and then they get to go on with their lives. And just as Jesus forgave the woman in adultery and said, "Go, but sin no more." That's grace.
Well,
that's mercy.
I don't know if it's true, but apparently one of the things that happens when you die, if nobody knows for sure, but you actually experience the pain that you caused others with your words, for example,
Mm-hmm.
which is that's a weakness of mine. Sharp words. It's such a mystery. But what's amazing, and I am listening to you, and I'm interested, but it's all makes sense. It all makes sense. I listen, for example, quite a bit to Christopher Hitchens in debates. He's an extraordinarily intelligent man. I met him 3 times, and but what I find is he's anti-religion, not anti-God, but he denies that. He says, no, I'm but then I listen to the people he debates with, and Lane Craig, who's I don't totally enjoy listening to him. There's an Irishman, a scientist. Anyway, the story you're telling, the one you're telling, is consistent, and it's and it makes sense, and it's eternal. You don't get tired of it. I don't get tired of hearing it. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of time to think about this, and
You're not old.
I'm still growing.
Time?
I'm 40, but I started, I grew up with a pastor father. So I was faced with a lot of these things from an early age. And I started kind of my own journey when I was about 20. But then especially in the last 12 years, I've spent a lot of time kind of really seeking answers versus just what I was taught. And what I've come to find is that everything, at least in my experience so far, is that everything biblical, when actually understood from biblical context, not from context, cultural looking backwards, that sort of thing, it actually lines up exactly with how the world works and how I've seen things to work out. And I'll be honest too, William, I've seen crazy things when I've been on this journey. I've seen insane miracles. I've seen God do crazy things in my life. You speak of, I've seen healings that would blow your mind. I've prayed over a girl and seen her eye open. I've seen legs grow out when I've prayed over them. It's wild. And, you spoke of doubt, and I have doubts about aspects of my beliefs sometimes, but there's no doubt about God anymore. There's zero. I haven't had doubt about that in 10 years at least, because I've just seen too much, experienced too much. And so that's locked in.
You're a bit of a healer.
Well, I want to call myself that, but I've seen it. And it's, it's not always, but I've seen things that don't make sense apart from God. And so to me, there's no doubt there. The doubts come sometimes in what do I believe about God sometimes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like, so I do believe that God desires us to walking with him ends up in a better life, a healthier life, more prosperous life. And that doesn't mean riches. I just mean in general, like love, success, relationships, all that, and not in a worldly sense. So it would take a long time to really break down what I mean, but I just mean a prosperous soul, I guess is a good way to say it. But there's sometimes that are hard. I mean, this fight for one is hard. Sometimes it's hard to understand why there is so much suffering still, especially when you're faced with it. Now, I can give you the theological answer.
I heard a guy, a priest who died, came back, a near-death experience.
Mm-hmm.
He had 3 things. I can't remember the other 2. I can't find it again. But the one thing he said that he heard from God when he was dead is suffer joyfully. Suffer joyfully. I don't know exactly what it means, but there is something about suffering.
Yes.
Because everyone goes through it.
Yes.
And everyone oddly goes through it sometimes differently.
100%. Well, for me, it's not that suffering exists. That's the problem. Suffering exists of our own making, because God didn't create suffering. If he did, he would have put Adam and Eve in a horrible place. He didn't. They chose that. They left Eden by doing the one thing he asked them not to do. And it says death entered the world through Adam. So it didn't come from God. It came from sin. And that goes back to the whole definition of sin. So all suffering on earth exists because of mankind's choices. It's not sent from God. However, God uses it all. Romans 8:28 says, God uses everything for the good of those, who love him. So everything that happens to you can be used by God for good, whether it's his will or not. And not everything that happens is God will, because if it was, we wouldn't have free will. And I think that's not the story of the Bible. The Bible is very clear that God's will was for Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit, and they did. And so from the very beginning, we've been circumventing his will. But his will wins in the end. The best way I ever heard it described is like you're trying to get from LA to New York, and your life is the map. And no matter which way you take, God will eventually get you back to New York. It just might look different than you originally, there's so many different routes. He can keep getting you back on track to end up there. And that is kind of how I think about it. And so when I said that I have doubts when I see suffering and stuff, it's not so much that I doubt why there's suffering in the world. I understand that. It's sometimes when the right people are fighting and they've been doing the right thing, or they're righteous people, or children. That's the one that always is the hardest for me. It's children suffering. And just like how much of it there is, and how hard it is to get breakthrough. Sometimes for that person to get out of it. And so, and that's hard, hard to understand that. So that's sometimes where the doubts come in. It's like, do what I believe about God, like turning this around for good. Is he really involved in that? Sometimes I have that. Now I always come back, because I've like I've said, my own experiences, what I study, all that. I always come back to where I was. And I grow sometimes in nuance in it, but I always come back to the biblical stuff, because ultimately it proves itself true to me. However, in the moment, sometimes when you're hurting for somebody else, it is easy to have doubts about that, but never doubts about God himself. Never at all.
I've been blessed with that. I've never once doubted God's existence. But I'm not a particularly good person, I couldn't talk about Paul, 12:1 or Timothy 2:3. I can't do any of that. But it's confusing, because just to go to one of your points, we all have all this suffering and all this anger.
Mhm.
We've lost money, and we know this and that.
Mhm.
But imagine if you were born in the Dark Ages. You know, you wouldn't have a book to read. You wouldn't know how to read.
Sure.
How do you get through the night?
Yeah.
Life would be brutish and short.
Mhm.
You'd be working all the time. You know, there's only a few people that live the way we do now. So it's, you know, we forget to be grateful for the things we do have that
I completely agree.
That are beyond what
Yeah.
anyone else ever did.
And to me, what you just said proves my belief that the trend of history is always up over time.
Well, I don't
And
see that's where I'm a little afraid. Regardless of what one believes about is going on in the Middle East, and we don't have to focus on the Holy Land. We can look elsewhere. 20 years ago, for example, we dropped depleted uranium bombs in Iraq, and little children would go grab the glowing.
Yeah.
Well, these are radioactive bombs, and the radiation stays in the Shirokos of the desert for forever, as far as we're concerned. Well, radiation changes DNA. It changes life.
Absolutely.
And what are we doing with this? What are we doing? Look around at the animals. What if the DNA changes the animals? The beauty in this world of having dogs and cats and horses that come to us.
Yep.
Wolves that come to us. Christy Nome shoots one in the face. Why? But mankind shot them all in the face. Why did we do that? I don't know.
There's a lot of evil in the world, William, and sometimes one of the confusing things is some of that evil was done by otherwise good people, and that's one of the great mysteries. And I will say that people make decisions from selfishness; they make decisions out of fear all the time. And there are problems for sure. And when I say the trend of history is up, I'm not saying that everybody's life is going to be better than a life, say, 50 years ago.
I wonder if each of us have to meet a moral challenge. I wonder if each of us have to meet a battle of good and evil and not be found wanting. And so that each generation or each situation has to be different.
Yeah.
Because if I were to experience now the Nazis and what the horror they did, I would know how to react against it. Is that really a moral test? Or I know now that I wouldn't shoot the last dodo bird. I don't know. It's hard to make up examples. Slavery. I would know that I should fight bringing human beings in the hold of boats and selling them. But what would be the moral test if I already know the answer? So now we have new moral tests.
We all do.
For example, people who were once horribly treated can then treat others badly. And
there's always evil that never changes.
But my point is, each of us are capable evil. Even if we were once victims, we can still.
Yes. But that goes both ways. We're also each capable of immense good.
And that's why, even with these shills and these greedy bastards and all that, they are behaving in evil ways. I still hope
100%
they can
change. Anybody can change. Absolutely. The thing is that, I guess the thing is, it's just that, to me, I think when I say the trend of history is improving, everybody is constantly faced with stuff. But here's one thing that
I don't see it in our country, we're going backwards.
But you're seeing our country, and I see it too, and I fight for it. But it's also a myopic. We're looking just from our lens of history.
That's true.
In the moment from our culture. We're not noticing the millions of people in Africa who are now getting water for the first time and starting to have access to markets and grow their wealth. Same with much of Asia or South America. The thing is, the world in general is trending in a better direction. We are in a real fight, and we were in a real fight in World War II and many other times in history. But what I said is the overall trend. It's like the market. If it dips down for a little bit and then the trend is up, it's the same in my opinion with history. And I believe it's pretty provable, honestly, based on, think about us. You and I are having this conversation now on this amazing thing. We're sitting in air conditioned rooms with lights. We have food readily available to us, toilets, like our life. We see this.
The chains on my feet and the guns in my head.
Yeah. If I want to walk outside, I can walk outside and take my dog on a walk. I'm extremely blessed, just like you said. And we lose sight of how far we've come because we do just keep focusing on the battle ahead of us. And I get that. We should focus on it. But the thing is in history, as just like you said, you knew slavery was wrong. Well, guess what? There were hundreds of thousands of people who knew it was wrong back then too. And that's why change started happening. And sometimes it takes just a few people who believe that to change history. It's believed that the American Revolution was
Wilberforce, wasn't it?
Wilberforce in Britain, 100%. And it's believed that the American Revolution was fought with support of only 10 to 30% of the colonists, and yet we created this amazing nation out of it. Good people, when they step up, can make amazing change, and that's why I'm here.
True, the behavior of human beings and groups, and I know that people doing it also often have doubt.
Mm-hmm.
You have that capability in you, and you're gonna go, help a lot of people and go a long way.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. My goal is just, I've learned if we're just us and we keep fighting the battles that God brings to us, there's a reason he brings them to us. It's because he knows we're capable of fighting our part, and he allows that to happen. And I think even us just talking on here day after day, it's our little part, sometimes you're doing stuff behind the scenes, obviously.
Well, no, this whole thing, there's a personal journey for me in it, but I think it's with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I noticed most of all is how many good people I've met, and how many people on my lives, and the people that are fighting. And I can't help but notice that somehow that to me, that's God. And I don't want to turn people off by talking that way, but and I've almost given up on it several times and despaired, and been in because I suffer sometimes, I think, from depression, situational. I think I'm not a shrink, but anyway, I don't quit because I still think that it's God's. But I don't understand exactly what it is. I don't see the clarity of it.
Sure.
It's more of, let's just keep, it's like I said on the call, it's like Ben Bradley had on his, on the blackboard in his school. The motto was, today our best, tomorrow better. And that's all you can do. Try our best and try better tomorrow. That's all you can do.
Yeah. I think that like you said, we can't see the end. We can't see everything that's going on, but we've created this amazing community, or been a part of it. Met amazing people on the way. And honestly, the things we've learned, along the way. It's changing people's lives. And I just think there's already been a lot of great fruit. And I can tell you that, the fact I show up, just like you just said, every single day, do this over and over again. And, it's not like you and I aren't making money from this very much, get a little bit of donations every once in a while, I get a little ad revenue from YouTube, but it's very little.
It's very hard to make money doing it. But.
But I show up every day because there's just a conviction in me that this is going somewhere. And when it does, it's going to be good for all of us. And that's where my conviction is. Plus I also have kids.
I think there's some difficult times coming, and it may be man-made. I think we're going to need each other during those times.
Yeah.
And to the extent, it doesn't matter that you're in North Carolina and Dirty Mayo's in Washington State, or I'm making it up. I'm forgetting where he is right now. Because we're getting to know each other and rely on each other and trust each other and helping each other out, I think we will be there to get through the times ahead. I don't think it's going to be forever. I just think there's going to be, as I've described, it's just going to be a period of panic, and you got to get through that, and then it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And the things you're describing about wealth, so much, if you look back in all of human history, pretty much before the American century, people lived very happily on a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
Although I would have a hard time living without my computer and without air conditioning, so it's hard to say you want to go back.
Yeah.
But I think you can have a simpler life.
I think we're all prisoners to our moment. We just see what we see. We've experienced things they couldn't even have dreamed of having. And so they
but we've lost things too.
Oh yeah.
Our life,
100%.
we don't see the stars, which might be we lose a connection.
I agree.
With the spiritual.
Yeah.
We don't particularly stay out among the trees and the animals, so we don't learn from the animals.
Yeah.
So there's some losses too.
One of the best lessons I ever learned, and somebody made so much sense to me in this, is that it's actually harder to live well. And by well, I mean balanced, and what you just said, with more options than it is to live.
Well, that's opportunity cost. That's opportunity cost.
It's
when you're Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can do is read books.
Yeah.
You read books, but when you're a young kid today, you can go on TikTok. You can. You can drive a car. You can watch a movie. You can I guess today you can explore other things and you can travel. So to sit down and read is an opportunity cost.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't think you could tell any poor person in the world that they're better off being poor, and they believe you. They're like, are you kidding me? I can barely eat. I want like these things. My life is so hard. And so it's like, it's not that abundance is bad, but stewarding abundance, it's like, it takes away the simplicity. And so you have to learn, and I'm bad at myself. I wish I spent more time outdoors. I wish I spent more time exercising. I spend way too much time in front of screens. And stuff, and all this, like you're talking about, and I know it. And it's about finding ways to balance it all.
The problem is you can't, I'm dealing with regrets, like not having children and things like that. But you can't have it all. That's a complete myth. Any choice you make, you're going to miss out on something else. It's just how it's set up.
Yeah, you have to find the things that are most important to you. But here's the thing: is most people choose what's easier because it's readily available versus what they really want. And that's where regrets come from. Most of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time it's because
I think sometimes you just have to, if you find yourself, I don't know, stuck, enjoy what's around you. You know, I used to give advice and I experienced in my life, but in all of our lives, even what we're going through right now, what's happening right now, it'll end.
Yeah.
And there'll be I used to call it quantum. I don't know what quantum means, but there'll be a stair step or a sea change, a quantum change in each of our lives. Well, for example, you could be going through a tough time in your life after college, and it goes on and on and on, and you're bemoaning it and you're upset and but then all of a sudden you get your break and it's over with.
Yeah.
And then you miss those years because there were friends there. There were things you were doing.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to remember to try to enjoy and learn from the things you're in, even though it's not quite where you want to be, because someday it's going to be over.
That's where gratefulness comes in, you know. And
that wasn't that Paul letter to the Corinthians.
Actually, you're not far off.
I don't know.
You know, he says godliness with contentment is great gain, and he talks about how he's learned to be content in every situation. But content is not the same as satisfied, and satisfied means you basically almost become apathetic to the point where you're just like, I don't need to go after what I want. I don't need to grow. I'm satisfied. But content is finding joy and happiness in your situation while still wanting the more. And that's, and that's the great challenge for all of us. How can we completely...
I hope you have it. I don't know if you do, because I'm not around you, but my father, I noticed, surprised me, but my aunts, and other people in my life, I've noticed that if you pray and whatever faith, see, that's the one thing I find the Muslim faith very beautiful. I don't know a lot about it, but my friends who are Muslim and who pray, I'm amazed by it. And maybe it's because the Catholic faith has some magical thinking in it that you see God in I don't know, but there's a grace that people gain over a lifetime of being devoted to God, and it's a joy. And I don't know that I don't have it, but I see it in others, and I hope you have it. It's
some days.
Well, it's just a blessing of I don't know how to describe it. I obviously don't experience it particularly myself, but I think maybe the Buddha got it, if you believe what he went through. I don't know. I think God comes to each of his creations the way God wants to, but I happen to be grateful that we live now, and it's the story we have.
Yeah, well, I think we're very blessed. And on that note, William, I'm going to have to let you go. Right. I got to get to bed, and we kept each other up late.
Well, let me just before you go, let me see if I can just find one thing. Because you didn't believe me. And I don't know if Google's going to help me. But it might. Otherwise, there it is. Blinded by Rainbows. Keith Richards and Mick Jagger.
That's amazing. I had no idea. I like a lot of Stones songs. I never heard that one.
Let me find the thing. Oh, it's right at the beginning. Did you ever feel the pain that he felt upon the cross? Oh my God, it's so painful. Did you ever feel the knife tearing flesh that's oh so soft?
Oh, jeez.
Did you ever touch the night? Did you ever count the cost? Did you ever hide the fear, put down paradise as loss? And then he says it again down here. Did you ever fear the night? Could it be the war is lost? Do you fear the final hour? Do you kneel before the cross? Do you see the light? Is the end in sight? See the face of Christ? Enter paradise. Then, of course, he destroys it right at the end by saying, "I doubt it." But I guess I didn't remember it quite right. But did you ever feel the pain that he felt upon the cross? Just a powerful.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I'll look at that one.
All right. Well.
All right. Well, hey, I enjoyed this.
We lost the entire audience, but
no, there's
nice
still a couple
you,
hundred watch, I think. So you too, William. I really enjoyed this. It's been too long.
And I really did listen to what you were saying, and I thank you.
Oh, you went muted there at the end.
Ideas.
Yeah.
I listened.
You're back.
All right. I listened to what you were saying. Sorry. Thank you.
No, I enjoyed this a lot. This was fun. I appreciate you, and I'm glad I made it on tonight. So,
all right.
I'll see you soon, William. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Goodbye.
I don't know how to do it.